All right, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting time with myself, your host, Slow Wolf, and we're here with another Season 7 Alpha League group pod stage game. My name, as I just said before, is Slow Wolf, and joining me today, we have the one, the only, the T.O. Eriver, helping to commentate. Hey, buddy, how's it going?
Hey guys, what's going on? Thank you very much for having me back here as always. Well, I could, even if you told me no, I was just gonna come to Canada and beat down your door and say I'm co-casting anyway, because we got my two armies that I play on the stream today. We got Deathguard with Mortarion making his debut on the stream versus Creeper's Eldar, which we have seen before, hand it quite nicely to the Dark Angels. So yeah, this one's gonna be great.
Yeah, it's gonna be an absolute slobber knocker of a game. There's a lot of fire on both sides. There's a lot of just power on both sides. And despite the fact that Craftworld is kind of sitting low on the overall tier list, and Morty's sitting pretty high in people's personal opinions, and DG in general seems to be doing really well, this Deathguard Mortarion Chowder might have its work cut out for it. There is a lot of firepower in the Eldar list, and a lot of mobility. So even if the early game is looking a little bit rough for one side, it could quickly change the other way. It's going to be right down to the wire. It would be my prediction for this game. It's going to be sick. If you guys want the lists, hey, guess what? I already copied, already pasted. Boom! Here's some lists. We got some Morty shoutouts for Craftworld Eldar. You can check it out for yourself. Chat says, I hate fighting Mortarion. Silverhawk 112. I have yet to have that particular pleasure, but I'm sure I'll get there eventually. There are ways to deal with him, but he is a big, strong thing. And you know what? We'll be talking about that right now, because we do need to get into these lists and start talking about what these contenders kind of bringing to the table. It's and there's some good stuff. There's a lot to say about these lists. So how about we just get into it, take a look at them, and get started. For our first list, let's go ahead and take a look at EDTs. And EDT was the winner of Season 5, if I remember correctly. Really strong player, knows what he's doing. I'll quickly run through the list. It's a chaos soup, but it's only barely a soup. It's more chunky than that, and hence why I called it a chowder. Our first thing here that's worth mentioning is that we got Mortarion, the big man himself, the big chonker. He's huge. He's a pretty cool model, but then on top of that, he's got a bevy of rules. Mortarion, this time around, is bringing around Miasma Pestilence, Gift of Contagion, and Gift of Plagues for his psychic abilities. He's got the Mortarion's Anvil Plague Company going on, and I'm sure that we'll find out what Plague Company trait he's chosen. It'll probably be the no rerolls, if I have to guess, and for what EDT has told us before. So this is our Warlord. He's big, he's scary, he's a bit of a menace right now, and if your list can't deal with him at all, like either through stalling or through other means, then you're in trouble. With that said, let's go on to the rest of the Deathguard Detachment. The Detachment itself is actually relatively simple. This is stuff that we've seen before. It makes a lot of sense. These are the Ferrymen, which, Eriver, what does the Ferryman specific trait do again?
So any unit that has the Photed variants, so that tends to be like the Foul Blight, that'll be the Foul Blight spawn, and the Tallyman in the list, he can spend 1 CP to extend the aura of those characters out by 6 inches.
Yeah, that's really good, especially with those two guys. Bringing up the HQ slot of this particular detachment, we've got a Deathguard Demon Prince. They're walking around with Miasma Pestilence as their psychic power alongside Smite. They have a Hellforged Sword, a Plague Spewer. They've got the Droning as their chosen plague. And then on top... Sorry?
That's half movement, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In case if you wanted it to be absolutely, just gross, that's another way to do it. And the Plague Skull of Glothula, which is effectively at the end of the movement phase, you toss this bomb that just does a bajillion mortal wounds. It's a once per game effect, but if it's done properly, can be a really nice ace in the hole. Bringing up our troops, we've got 2 squads of 10 Poxwalkers. These guys are more durable than they seem for their points. They are annoying. They aren't going to kill much necessarily, but they are not to be underestimated, especially in big squads. These are just 2 squads of 10. My thinking, probably just to hold a backline objective and to be a nonsense, just to be a nuisance as much as possible, and to screen as much as possible as well. In our elites, we have a couple of important things here. Death Shroud Terminators. I'm not sure if you've heard of them. They're pretty good. They run around with their scythes, ripping and tearing through pretty much everything. They have one profile for cleaving, one profile for smashing. They got flamers. They are really resilient. They have a bodyguard aura that works on everyone except for Mortarion in this detachment effectively. They're really strong. I like them a lot, and Erebor is no slouch with them either, having supported 3 of these in his game against the Dark Angels not too long ago, and they really did perform exceptionally well in that game, bringing it to a very close game if you haven't seen it. For our rest of our elites, we've got a Foul Blightspawn. This boy here has a flamer that is world-renowned. He has fight last, well, not fight last, but you don't count his charging abilities. He has a bunch of other stuff going on with him. He's gross, and now that you can go ahead and extend the distance of his auras, that's going to be very helpful. Speaking of auras that are going to be helpful, we've got the Tallyman. This guy gives you a bevy of additional CP, but then on top of that gives you extra benefits to your shooting units, specifically with stuff like bolters, flamers, and everything else going on. The Tallyman is actually just a really good soup option as well if you need to. He's a feature of most Deathguard lists for a reason, and if it's not just for the CP expended, like the CP getting that you get a bunch of extra stuff too. So I really like the Tallyman. Then we move on to our fast attack. We have 2 fetid bloat drones. They have flesh mowers, despite what they look like. The flesh mower is effectively just a gigantic rolling pin with spikes attached, and that thing hurts. If you haven't seen one of those rip through an entire squad of Primaris Marines, boy howdy, you're in for a fun time. They are fast, they move quickly, they can spread sicknesses and plagues when you need them to, and they're relatively tough, even for 9 wounds. They've got toughness 7 to 5 up invuln save, and the -1 damage thanks to disgustingly resilient, making them really tough and quick flanking units. Then we have 2 Playburst Crawlers. These really need no introduction. They can introduce themselves via the mortar that they have attached to their top, and then the 2 Entropy Cannons that they have. The Entropy Cannons are stars here. Very important to keep in mind that they got Strength 8, AP -4, and 3 plus D3 damage per shot. It's really painful. It's a very nice addition to the kit, and the mortar itself is also no slouch, managing to support Strength 8, AP -2, flat 2 damage, and the ability to boost that up to flat 3 damage with some splash mortal wounds around the target. These things are extremely tanky, a toughness 8 with 12 wounds and -1 damage to be to any shot that they take. I like them a lot for holding like backfield objectives, screening out, and whilst also still being effective during the rest of the course of the game. And then finally, one itty-bitty little squad here of word bearers, and this is the spice that really makes this whole soup work, and the reason why they're brought along. This patrol detachment is word bearers, which has one very specific important thing going on here: the sorcerer. The sorcerer has the ability to cast spells, specifically warp time, and one of the word bearer stratagems allows you to cast warp time even if you failed, and it cannot be denied at that point. Which means that even if the word bearers fail their cast, they still succeed, which guarantees warp time, which means Morty gets to fly around the battlefield at the speed of sound. It's nasty as heck. I cannot overstate how powerful this can be in the right hands, and EDT might be those right hands. We'll have to see. We then have 10 Chaos Cultists. These guys are cheap and cheerful, as Goonhammer likes to say. They are the cheapest troop slot you could possibly put in here, and honestly, regular Chaos Space Marines are sadly not worth it yet compared to their loyalist brethren, so the Cultists are in here instead. They at least have objectives secured, and, you know, they're there. And then we have 1 Chaos Spawn. I'll have to ask the EDT about this particular blend of spice, but hey, it's a cool looking model, so I'll give it the credit where credit is due. It looks sick at the very least. And that's their list, really. Erebor, what are your thoughts on this list?
Yeah, okay, so as for the reasons you mentioned, it's nasty because warp time plus Mortarion is, or anything, actually, you know, a bloat drone. With that, like, you can use a stratagem to move that contagion for the reduction of half movement. So you can move a warp drone on average 13 inches with an advance. That's a 26 advance on a bloat drone, and it just neuters your opponent's movement by half. So that's a really nasty combo as well. The other tricks that this list can pull, guys, by the way, is because of the little word bearers detachment, all like 11 models of them. Because GW is so good with wordings and stuff like that, you can actually use the CSM version of Veterans of the Long War on the Death Shroud. So you can use, as opposed to the new Deathguard 2 CP version, you can use the 1 CP version from KSM because it says Heretic Astartes unit, which they get as a keyword. Another little trick is Prescience can go onto one of those Plague Burst crawlers as well. So you can have a Plague Burst crawler with all those shots hitting on 2s as well, which is like really nasty. And like the third trick you can pull with this little 11-man unit, which really brings the list together, it's really cute, is that you can use Chaos Familiar to swap out a power and go for Death X. So you can remove the invul from a unit as well.
That's really big. I hadn't even thought of that, nor for the fact that you get Veterans of the Long War for 1 CP with this detachment. Again, proving that 1, Chaos needs a new codex, and 2, the power of Chaos Soup, and the reason why it's like such a powerful soup. And in this case, honestly, it is just such a chunky list. I could not call it a chowder. Let's go. Like, so far, we don't have anything except for our secondaries, which is important. So going through the Deathguard secondaries, we have engage on all fronts, while we stand we fight, and raise the banners high. Erever, what do you think about these secondaries?
So me and EDT stroke Etomchin, I've talked about Deathguard a lot. We talk about building in secondaries to lists, and while we stand we fight is like one of his prime ones that he kind of like bakes in to this list, because it goes onto Mortarion and the 2 Playbreast Crawlers. The likelihood is all your firepower is going into Mortarion to deal with him, so your Playbreast Crawlers are fine for a few turns. Granted, he can lose Mortarion, lose 5 points, but those Playbreast Crawlers are probably fine for the entire game, and if you're up against a list that does a lot of shooting, he can literally just sit them behind LOS and just fire mortars at you all game. So that's the secondary he's baked in to almost virtually guarantee him 10 points. Engage on all fronts. Warp time, you're going to be in 3 table quarters, you know, either with Mortarion, a bloat drone. So yeah, it's a great pick. And then raise the banners is kind of interesting. Like, he's only, the Poxwalkers can't do it. The Cultists and the Death Shroud can do though. So I think he'll get points there. But one thing we have seen with the speed of Eldar, with some of their OBSEC units, they can be very good at just removing banners, like all over the place, especially considering he's only got like 20 OBSEC troops in the list as well, which can very quickly fall over. Yeah, other than that, it's fine. I think Slow Wolf might have...
I have accidentally muted myself. Sorry, my bad. What I meant to say was, well, that all makes perfect sense to me. We can talk about the secondaries a little bit while we go through our first movement phase. Let's go through the Eldari list that Creeper's brought. Now, Creeper is no stranger to the stream. Erever, please go through his list for me.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, guys, Eldar, my first faction I played. I love the Space Elves of the Craftworlds. Best faction. Other than Deathguard, it's like a 50-50 for me. Okay, so for the Craftworlds today, we have starting out with a Patrol Detachment, taking the custom Craftworld traits from Psychic Awakening. We have Expert Crafters, which is reroll a hit and wound for die for every unit in this detachment, which is pretty sweet. On paper, one of the best things that you have, just those flat rerolls on everything. And then we have Masterful Shots, which is Ignore Cover. Kind of useful, especially when people like are leaving like a Terminator touching a ruin and such. So just getting rid of that additional +1 to save can be handy here and there. And HQs, we have a Farseer. He's rocking Smite, Doom, and Executioner. Doom is select a target within 24 inches, Warp Charge 7. And if you are successful, your entire army gains reroll failed wounds on that unit, which is pretty sweet. And then Executioner is D3 mortal wounds, and then if you kill a model, you do an additional D3 mortal wounds. It's one of the best mortal wound powers out there, to be quite honest.
Easily.
Yeah. Warlock Skyrunner with Protect and Jinx. Protect is +1 save to a unit, Jinx is -1 save. That's going to be like pretty clutch, getting that up on Mortarion perhaps to reduce his 4-up invul to a 5-up, or maybe a drone to reduce it from like a 5-up invul to a 6-up invul. Really great power. I think we'll see that potentially being pretty big in this matchup especially. And filling out the troops slots, we've got 2 units of Dire Avengers. They're pretty good, pretty cheap, can just grab objectives, sit in the battlefield all game maybe. And then we got the Shadow Specters. I love these guys so much. Coming out of Forge World, the new book in 9th, they are doing an insane amount of damage, and they can deep strike as well. We've got his little niche pick here with the Striking Scorpions because he loves them. Great for doing those secondaries though, because again, this unit can deep strike. Just come in and get like something along the lines of deploy scramblers,
So
something
long
like
as you
that.
remember they exist.
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly. We got a lone viper just for like engage on all fronts. Not really, yeah, nothing else to say on that one. And then heavy support, we got a falcon and a lynx. Lynx is a great tank, Forge World model again. Crystal targeting matrix, so it can just advance and its weapons count as assault. And spirit stones for the 6 up, feel no pain, 5 up in ball as well.
Yeah.
And then second patrol, exactly the same custom craftable traits. He's got expert crafters, masterful shots again. Got an auto with sweeping hot wings, really good because all wording means that you just reroll ones to hit within 6 inches of him for everything. No core or any of that going on here, so that's why you take him. He's also the warlord, so every time you use a stratagem, you can get a CP back on a 6 up, which is quite nice. Another warlock, double downing on protect and jinx here. Um, and that's it for the HQs. Troops, 5 rangers, again, secondary focus. This is what you kind of got to play Eldar as these days. So a lot of your like little MSU units are actually really good at doing secondaries. And then another unit of Shadow Specters, no surprise. Fast attack, we got some Shining Spears. One of my favorites. So he's opted to take Skill Rider on the Exarch, so that's the +1 invul. To the Exarch against shooting, and then with Protect, obviously that will become a 2-up invul save on that guy. Really nice. And then last but almost not least, sorry, we've got 2 more units. Dart Reapers, always hit on freeze. They can be in that Falcon in the other detachment, and then they can fire and fade in and out as long as you've got CP, a whole 1 CP to keep them nice and safe. And they're a pretty clutch unit right now with like everything being like 3 wounds because they got a 3 damage profile. Even if you're reducing damage by 1, it's still 2 damage. So every like 2 wounds that are failed saves, you're killing like a big Terminator. And we saw that come into fruition in the game against Dark Angels for sure. And then last but not least, we've got another Lynx. Crystal targeting matrix again, spirit stones, and vectored engines, so that if he does advance this one, he will just get -1 to hit. And that's the list.
It's
Pretty
a powerful
solid.
list. Yeah, we've seen it at work. It ended up coming into Dark Angels in a really nice way. The flat 3 damage on the Lynxes, the Shadow Specters, the Psychic support, and just the amount of damage that this list is able to put out tabled the Dark Angels. Literally got rid of almost every single one of them, save for a couple of Terminators. It was brutal, and it was a really good game, too. It's worth watching. And if you thought that the Craftworld Eldar were in a bad spot, I mean, they do have some serious issues with Ninth, but some of these units, particularly the Shadow Specters and the Lynxes, seem to have really brought things in to sharp and clear focus for them, and the Dark Reapers being able to fire and fade back into their transport keeps them super safe. So, yeah, we really like the list. As far as the secondaries go, they've got Engage on all fronts, Assassinate, and Deploy Scramblers. Going on things quickly here, Engage on all fronts and Deploy Scramblers are common picks for the Eldari because of their speed to be able to get engaged very easily, and their small, cheap, easy to deploy units with Deploy Scramblers. And even just their basic speed, if they have to deploy on the table, Deploy Scramblers is practically a guarantee at some point during the game. So those two things together are at least a good 20 to 30 points. 20 to 25 points without much issue. Assassinate's the interesting one here, and I can see where it's useful. There are a lot of Deathguard characters. One of them has to go. Mortarion, if Mortarion does not die quickly, then that's a problem. We have the 2-Fetid Virians, we have the Sorcerer, we've got the, the Deathguard Demon Prince. There's a lot of little characters around here, and with the amount of firepower that the Eldari are bringing, there is no reason that they can't eventually get to them. The question is, will they? It's a bit of a win more situation here, I think, in that if Assassinate goes off, congratulations, you've probably won already. But, hey, it at least prioritizes killing the characters, which is something that Creeper definitely wants to do. So I can see the logic. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Assassinate's a bit rough because Death Shroud have Bodyguard. So even if, like, the character's, like, the closest unit, you still can't target him. So... And you need to bring those Death Shroud down before you can like deal like with the character. Sure, Mortarion, if EDT does run him up the board, turn 1, whatever, then yeah, there's a chance that the Eldar can just nuke him to the ground. So that's the only one I'm a bit sort of about. It could swing either way. And just got a couple of questions in the chat. Yes, Banebone, this is the bracket. This is the group stage. So people go into groups of 5, play 4 games, and then the top player in each group then goes into the playoff bracket, which is the second stage. And how many Necron players are there? There are a whole 4 Necron players this season of Alpha.
Yep. No, Necrons have seen a bit of a dip in popularity since the beginning of the edition, with all the new 9th edition codexes coming out there. Codex now seems tame by comparison in a lot of respects. I don't think it's been fully explored yet, but yeah, there's definitely a case to be made that Necrons are like solidly in the middle tier, maybe on the higher end of it, and yeah, that's probably fine. One of the reasons why is because a lot of their anti-tank weaponry and anti-big thing weaponry is still D6 damage, compared to everybody else seemingly and their mother getting 3 plus D3 damage. So we'll have to see if that changes at any point, because rules like that are fairly easy to rewrite out given time with a chapter approved. Anyway, Necrons are cool. I like them, but that's not the reason why we're here today. That's a topic for a podcast, which we're not doing this week, by the way. Quick announcement. That'll be next week, because this Sunday we're taking a break. We gotta do, specifically me, I've got to do family things. So as a result, I won't be here.
As well.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't realize it was Easter Sunday.
Yeah, it turns out that this weekend is not a good weekend to have people, if you are in a predominantly Easter observing country. So there you have it. Anywho, deployment so far has been pretty back and forth. In the one corner, obviously on the left side, we have Creeper. He set up all of his Lynxes and the Falcon behind enemy lines. Inside the Falcon, we've got the Dark Reapers, without a doubt. The 2 squads of Shadow Specters are actually hitting the table turn 1, which I find an interesting choice. I think the idea here is to be able to put them out into situations where they can force some interesting choices out of EDT and maybe do some screening. I think, though, that they might be better used for their firepower. We'll have to see. Shining Spears are going out right out in front, which makes sense. On the eastern front, we've got the entirety of the Deathguard. And in this mission, which is a retrieval mission, you know, this deployment tends to favor a shooting army more than anything else, but there's more than enough speed on the Deathguard to make it work, so this shouldn't be a big deal for Mortarion and his friends. The Plagueburst Crawlers are hiding behind obscuring terrain to keep them nice and safe. We've got one of them sitting on an objective and protecting the Tallyman at the same time. Largely expected, fairly normal. We've got the Fetid Bloat Drones taking up one flank to zip their way up that way, seemingly making the best use out of the ruins to hide behind them turn 1, and then on turn 2 potentially go out, I think is the idea here. And some Chaos Cultists to jump onto the objective and then probably die very quickly afterwards. On the southern end of the flank, we got both squads of Death Shroud Terminators with one Foul Blightspawn behind them. So only one of the Deathguard characters so far is benefiting from that bodyguard rule that we talked about just now, but it's not a big deal. And both squads of Poxwalkers seem to be down here, or will be down here in some way, shape, or form. I'm actually interested in what you think about this Chaos Spawn pick. Is there something I'm missing here with the solo Chaos Spawn?
Okay, so I'll tell you why one single spawn is great. It's just literally for, like, 1 for memes, because spawn are awesome, and 2 because it can just, like, literally, like, move 7 inches plus in advance, and, like, just nip onto an objective really quickly, and then just stand there and force, like, shots into it, because it's, like, 4 wounds. So you just force, like, a little bit of firepower into it to remove it.
Yeah.
They're still, like, not bad in combat. They're, like, 2d3 attacks. You know, you get to roll on, like, the spawn table to, like, figure out what it does. And for 23 points, it's, like, kind of awesome. Like, as for the markers on the right-hand side, so this is the table that we use for Alpha League. You can go onto the Steam Workshop and download it if you want to use it for your games. I can put a link in the chat if you like. So we have quite a lot of counters and stuff just to help with, like, the pace of games and stuff like that. Various dice bags, various tools set off to the right, which we currently have our UI over. So if that's what you're meaning by counters, we have all kinds of useful, like, bits and pieces just to help speed up the process of games and such.
Mm-hmm. And all of those are very helpful. Question for the chat: are Deathguard the only real Chaos army being played? No. Although Deathguard are definitely a predominantly and strong and popular option at the moment, Demons see a lot of play. The Infernal Knights with the Knight Megara and some Armiger play with the Lightning Locks does see some play as well. But predominantly Chaos Soup is very strong right now. You still see Thousand Suns detachments occasionally to pop in and give access to Warp Time and their own psychic powers. You've got the Word Bearers detachment in this list. You've got Big Bird from the Demons detachments that pops up. Keeper Secrets are excellent.
Lord of Rage.
Yep. The bloodletter bombs are starting to make a comeback in the real life tournaments at the moment, and there's definitely some chaos that works really, really well. But it's worth mentioning that mono chaos tends to start to suffer as soon as you start to keep it to single armies. Deathguard work well on that front, and demons can work. But mono faction Thousand Suns have issues. Mono faction Chaos Space Marines are on a very rough side of the law at the moment. They are being just tossed into jail until they can get their additional wounds per Marine, and they could use a rule update. There's definitely some of those factions that tend to do a bit worse, but all of them, if you soup them, start to do really, really well.
Yeah, you're completely right. So I saw a really interesting Emperor's Children list the other day. On YouTube, and it had souped in Mortarion though, right?
Yeah.
There's no reason not to soup in Mortarion into a CSM list right now. But what he brings to the table to the rest of your army is amazing, especially when you can just take Mark of Zinch on anything and just have that warp time as well.
Yeah, and Mortarion is he's such a game warping model. He's so powerful on his own that the entire game revolves around the one model existing, and it's definitely a thing that in this case Creeper's going to have to keep in mind as he's playing against it. Now Creeper's been fully deployed for a little while here. We got some Dire Avengers here in this Southern Ruin. We got 2 squads in reserves, the Rangers and the Striking Scorpions, and the Dark Reapers are inside the transport right now. And we got another squad of Dire Avengers down over here. The Plagueburst Crawlers will probably have a very good first turn. We'll have to see how that works out. Right now, every single aspect of Creeper's army is okay, how do I deal with Morty so that way I can deal with the rest of the list? If Morty goes down, the rest of the list actually tends to fall down fairly quickly afterwards with this kind of firepower. It depends on how much of it is still left alive by the time Morty goes down, if Morty goes down, though.
Yeah, that's a very good point. You spend 2 to 3 turns dealing with Mortarion.
Oh, it's a tie for the roll-off, by the way. 4-4. The battle begins. Creepers roll to 2. It's a 4. All right, looks like EDT's going first.
Yeah, that's going to be difficult because it gives EDT the option of just either putting Mortarion in that Southern Ruin and just leaving him there out of line of sight, or actually just going in with him this turn.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how I feel about that.
CP spent here for redeploy strat as well from the Eldar.
So this allows them to redeploy how many units?
3 units for 2 CP. Phantasm.
Nice. Okay, so the Dire Avengers are moving so that way they are obscured and unable to be shot. We'll have to see how much that matters. Against the indirect firepower of the Plagueburst Crawlers, the Shadow Specters have moved out of the way. The Shining Spears have decided not to be in the front. This will be a very interesting turn 1 here for EDT. I do think that it's... Actually, he probably would have wanted to go second. It's nice to have the buffs on Mortarion, but going second would have meant that he would have been able to know where the Eldar are, and he would have forced the Eldar to actually commit to some positions. But yeah, we'll have to see. Right now, Creeper's deployed, null deployed very, very well, which is going to have to force the Deathguard to play very defensively this turn and produce as few targets as possible. I expect Mortarion to try to hide behind as much line of sight, denying terrain as possible. This building right here is pretty much as perfect as it's going to get. He'll still probably get shot, but by fewer people at the very least. Or he'll just throw Mortarion up the board as fast as possible and see if he can't get a turn 1 charge. The Plagueburst Crawlers will sit where they are. The Death Shroud Terminators will put themselves on an objective. I don't think it would be wise to put on both, but we'll have to see. And the Fetid Blood Drones are going to go ahead and move up the right flank and be ready to countercharge or pounce on anything that points its head out. At least that's what I think. Do you think that makes sense, or would you play this one differently, being in Etomcin's shoes? All right. I can see how it is. That's fair. That's fine. Okay, so there's the sorcerer moving right within range of Mortarion. Looks like they're going to throw the chowder forward, the big clam. That's going to be Mortarion here. The Deathguard Demon Prince, we'll have to see how it goes here right now. The Sorcerer has, in fact, moved a little bit further with an advance roll, trying to put themselves within cover. I find that interesting, trying to keep them out of deny range as well. There is a lot of psychic support here for the Eldari, and having your warp time get denied by accident would suck, I think is the best way to put it. If you end up having a bad day with warp time, it's going to just be rough. Mortarion moves up as 12 inches right there, right along the side, and that is going to go ahead and guarantee what we thought was going to happen. Mortarion is going to get thrown up the battlefield and try to remove rerolls as much as possible from everybody. Silverhawk says, man, I can't wait to see how many shots are going to hit that Mortarion. Probably a few. The Mortarion reroll, like the Mortarion warp time, since it's not going to be able to get denied, the Sorcerer is too far away, Mortarion's going to be able to move up, charge, kill the Dire Avengers or potentially the Falcon all in one go, and put a 12-inch aura out that just says no more rerolls. And that's a big problem for Farseers who really want those rerolls, and for Doom and Guide being applied. Now, there's lots of ways for the Eldar to move out of that aura. The Deathguard droning Demon Prince is not going to be able to get there in time to stop the rerolls, which I believe is what we've got on here for Mortarion. I'm pretty sure he's got the reroll removal one. But we'll have to listen when the time comes. We've got both squads of Death Shroud Terminators coming out here. I suppose that makes sense in hindsight. I initially said just put out one of them. Don't put out both, so that way you don't waste both of them at once. If you got both of them out there, like, all the shooting's going to Mortarion turn 1 anyway, so it's not that big of a deal, I suppose, if both of them go out there, because there's nothing else that's getting shot this turn. If anything's going to get shot, it's Morty. Tom B says, Chaos Soup armies don't scale down very well below 2k points. Potentially, yeah. You can obviously soup at 1,000 and stuff like that, but at that point you're souping, a bigger proportion of your army, so you have to make sure that that portion that you put in is well worth it. Putting a Morty and a small Deathguard detachment and then somehow also stuffing in a Wordbearer Sorcerer is obviously not only exceptionally mean for 1,000 points and largely unsporting, but I would say I would not play you again. But on top of that, it takes up a lot of points very quickly. How's Morty getting warp time, given that warp time has to be used on something within 3 inches? The pants. There is a sorcerer hiding right in here, actually, on the bottom floor, having gotten advanced. Here's our Wordbearer Sorcerer. Even if he was within range to be denied, he does have that 1 CP stratagem to just be like, nope. You can't deny this. So that warp time will go off, one way or another.
I love how he's just hanging out.
I mean, well, like past turn 1, the warp time's largely useless. There's a lot of other things that sorcerer can do, but if that sorcerer does get sniped out, I don't think EDT is like really sweating it. The important thing is making sure that Mortarion does what he's supposed to do turn 1.
Now, if you do want to play a similar list, but play it a bit more cautious and not have to like throw your sources to win like that, you can actually just run a 1,000 Suns detachment, and obviously they get the plus 6-inch range to cast. That's 9-inch warp time at that point.
Mm-hmm. And they get access to a variety of other things. Armin's like baseline +1 to cast. You start getting access to Tzeentch Demon Princes, which are still probably the best in the business in a lot of different ways. Not guaranteed anymore. The 4-up invulnerable save is probably what helps them the most, but with the new changes to how Demon Princes work in the Deathguard, like a Deathguard Demon Prince definitely works.
Yeah, so I see the play here with Mortarion. He's going to warp time and hit that middle home objective. Hope to wipe out everything in front of that links and then tag the links. So that's probably what he's looking to do here.
Yeah, that would make sense. Mind you, another 12 inches only puts you to like just past that objective, I would say. Making that charge will be difficult, I think, whilst also tagging the links. There's really not a whole lot of space for his base and his wings to fit without clipping through stuff, which is against Alpha League rules. So, we'll have to see how that works out. I think that there is a very good chance, though, that he can do a lot of that work by himself. And I think you got a good point there. The other thing I could see him doing is cracking open the Falcon, if at all possible. Killing the Falcon, removing a bunch of that firepower, and then getting closer towards the middle, so that way if you want to go ahead and continue to shoot, with rerolls and everything attached, you have to move off that objective. And Morty will just, he'll be -1 to hit, all this other stuff. If you're within 12 inches, you don't get rerolls. It's going to be kind of gross. Oh, well, Creeper's currently measuring ranges right now. It seems as if his Falcon has range of the entire battlefield, so that's good to know. I'm a little confused, but okay.
Checking what he can see, because he's got Assassinate. So any characters that are unprotected, he's going to look to go for in this turn 1. I'm hoping Eldar wins, says Silverheart. Craftworld, Eldar is my favorite faction, plus I fight a lot of Deathguard. Yes, so there's a nice little trick you can do with Craftworlds now, which Deathguard hate. Believe me, I hate this one. Run a Blackheart Patrol and have 2 Void Raven bombers in it, and just bomb their castle of Terminators and characters, and fly off the board with your flyer.
Shame we can't do that this season.
It is nasty. It is really nasty. If there's one like thing that I'm expecting to see a slight nerf to in Drakar Codex, it will probably be that, because D6 mortal wounds on a 4-up to everything in a 12-inch blast zone is like insane.
It's gross. And against this list, it's probably not as big a deal, but it would help to deal with all these OBSEC units. Effectively, the Deathguard can get pinned to their objectives if they're not careful. And I think that that's one of the reasons...
I think that's the one weakness of this Deathguard stroke Chaos Soup list, is the lack of OBSEC in it. So, because you've got like literally 20 models that die to paper. Like Poxwalkers are only good if you like bring them in as like a unit of 20 to get the synergies going with that the Dead Walk Again stratagem. So you get like extra movement, whereas 10 can just die in a turn. Like Eldar can literally just blink at them and they will fall over.
Yeah. Chat, Crunchy Moogle asks, so this game is very king of the hill in terms of collecting points. Interestingly, I wouldn't say so. This map in particular really tries to focus on 2 lanes, this top and this bottom lane. There's a diagonal to be able to stretch across, but neither of these corners have an objective or a primary in them. So you're really focusing on these 2 lanes of fire as much as possible to be able to wipe off these objectives. The trick here is whether Creeper can effectively outmaneuver the Deathguard and reduce their firepower and their offensive units to steaming piles of slag before the end of turn 2. If Morty can die for turn 1, that's a good start. If Morty dies turn 1 and one of the Plague Burst crawlers goes down, at that point the Eldar are starting to look really strong, because they'll be able to play around the Death Shroud Terminators all game. They will not be able to make it across the map in time for the Eldar to stop the Eldar from like wiping out the rest of the army effectively. So it's definitely an interesting counterplay, like a lot of interesting play going on in this matchup for the Eldar. On the flip side, the Chaos do have a lot of aces up their sleeve. Their Sorcerer, who's currently still hiding in these ruins, has an undeniable warp time on this Mortarion. There is no stopping it, unless if he successfully casts it, and there's a successful deny, which he put himself out of range of. Mortarion will be able to move up and be a threat turn 1. Which is,
it's like you rightfully said, there is no denying it.
Yeah, there's zero denying it. And both armies, and the Deathguard have access to a lot of indirect fire with the Plague Burst crawlers that is difficult to get rid of and not a priority right now for Creeper. Especially when he's got to deal with Morty, and then he's got to deal with these fetid bloat drones, and then after that he still has the Deathguard Demon Prince to deal with, like
Deathguard Terminators. And it's one of the things we talk about like on Deathguard servers. Like the biggest weakness of Deathguard is obviously like mobility. So the 2 ways you get around with that is you're tough enough to take midboard and go out from there, which is like my sort of style of list right now, running like 14 Death Shroud. Or you have something like Warp Time baked in to get units up the board like super quick. So that's the 2 sort of styles that you can run with the army, which is great.
It's also worth mentioning that the Word Bearers do have some synergies with Demon Engines, and the Plague Burst Crawlers and the Fetid Bloat Drones are still Demon Engines as far as I remember. Is there any cool play between those 2?
So I know what you're going to ask, and that is about Demon Forged. Demon Forge actually was one of the strats that got its wording changed, so it has to be Legion Pacific.
Yeah. But I was wondering if they had extra powers or whatever that would allow them to do that kind of thing.
So you can do prescience on one of them, which is great.
Yeah.
So it can hit on 2s. So that's not been changed because like they do this weird thing with chaos where they like nerf stuff that they think is OP and just leave the rest of it to affect everyone, which is a really strange way of doing things. Like, I think they should either just like get rid of everything or just like leave everything alone. Because it is, if you're getting into like playing Chaos Soup, it is the most confusing faction to sort of play in 40k in terms of like rule set like that.
Yeah. No, it is definitely one of the toughest factions to play in terms of keeping all your rules straight, because even this list by itself is currently using the Deathguard book, it's using the Chaos 2.0 book, it's using the Psychic Awakening book, and it's using all the errata from those 3 books. The Eldar book is currently using their Codex and the Forge World Compendium and the Psychic Awakening book, but all of those rules tend to be like nicely meshed together, whereas the soup ones are across a variety of different factions from different codices from different eras of 8th and 9th edition now. So depending on how complex you make your soup, like, it can get a little bit crazy. This one, it's actually not so bad. It's just a nice creamy base with a couple of chunky models, you know, some potatoes, some clams. It does the trick.
Love the reference. Guessing from Canada, you're into like seafood and stuff. Then,
I do like my clam chowder. Our East Coast has a pretty good chowder.
Good stuff. So Tom's saying excited to getting some word bearers painted up. Awesome. When I get my Deathguard done, I'm definitely going to start looking at Iron Warriors. I think that's going to be like my third army.
All
Now,
right, so
I just love them. I love the lore. I love everything about them. I can do hazard stripes on everything, and it'll look amazing. You know, so I want to get into Iron Warriors for sure.
All right. So we have warp time that's gone off.
6 inches.
Yeah, looks like a 6-inch charge.
And it looks like a 6-inch charge, apparently.
Yeah, that's about right mathematically, because after you move 24 across the board, usually what
It's a big deal. Those are Shadow Specters behind there as well, right?
So
Yeah, that's one of the squads of Shadow Specters. There's another squad hiding behind the crates here to keep them useful, but...
Because Mortarion hits like a truck in combat as well. That's one thing we did not touch on. So people were saying that he hits less hard because you lost that spell as Deathguard for mortal wounds on 6s, and there was ways to get that to like 5s.
Yeah.
But what he did gain was D3 plus 3 damage on strength 16 swings.
Okay.
So, yeah, which literally means you're winning a knight on 2 for like D3 plus 3 damage at like minus 4 AP, rerolling 1s to wounds. It is a plate weapon.
Yeah, I think that honestly, if Creeper had deployed even further back, that would not have been a bad plan. Because this is apparently a 6-inch charge out of Mortarion right now into these Shadow Specters, which is not where you want your Shadow Specters to be. Yikes. It's not the end of the world if Mortarion makes it in there, but there's no like falling back and stuff, and these lynxes are important. If this one gets tagged, that's a huge amount of damage just gone. And Mortarion has so many layers of defense.
Now the lynx can fall back and shoot. There is Eldar stratagem for 2 CP to do that, but
I lied!
CP, unfortunately, and that's what he wants to do, because he's forced to redeploy, so that's 2 CP down right away, and then he's going to force another 2 CP for that lynx to fall back and shoot.
So we're not going to cast the third with him.
And that's exactly what he's after, because he can have much better CP regen than the Eldar do, with that Taliman 7+ every command phase to get a command point attack.
So we're trying to get a deny off the first Morty spell, no dice.
Okay, you said it's an 8.
What spells did Morty bring this game? I'm guessing Miasma is one of them.
Yes, I think that the Deathguard Demon Prince has it as well, but...
Failed to deny it.
Let's take a quick look at the list. I've totally forgotten.
Power is going to be... I don't need the other one. It's fine. We're not going to smite because we don't want to kill the thing we're charging.
No smite coming out. Wise. He doesn't want to extend the range of his charge. So these Shadow Specters right now are going to live a charmed life for all of 20 seconds until we get to a charge phase.
So yeah, Miasma or Mori plus Gift of Plagues. That is the extend a contagion range by 6 inches. and then Gift of Contagion, and I think that is the one of roll 7 dice,
If I kill
and
a
every
single
roll
Shroud
of
Spectre,
toughness
the
is a
charge all
mortal.
of a sudden
If I'm
goes
not
up
mistaken.
5.
I will check my codex.
I
have
believe
it
it's
right
Gift of the
here.
Leper for
This
that
game.
one, or something.
See, I was prepared for this one. I have my Eldar Codex, I have my Psychic Awakening Eldar book, and I also have my
Your
Deathguard
Warlock
Codex right in front of me.
If you folks want lists,
Mm-hmm.
boom.
And you've taken Deploy,
The
Strangler,
pants beat me
Engage,
to it.
and Assassin.
Yes.
Now I just have to find it through DG's, sorry,
So
DW's
first entropy without
horrific
pressing
like book
is gonna
selection.
go-
Okay, so my mistake. Gift of Contagion is reduce strength by 1, and if you succeed it on a higher warp charge value of 8 plus,
okay,
it's
so
minus 1 strength
one
and
is gonna
attacks.
go Mortar to the Shadow Spectre.
So this mortar is going, so we got a Plague Burst mortar going to the back Shadow Specters. They will be benefiting from cover. So hopefully a couple of them stay alive. We'll have to see.
And hold on,
Mortarian,
sorry.
Fire Spear asks,
Yeah,
doesn't Mort only chooses Contagion in the first fight phase? No. He chooses his thing in the first battle round, and then after he's chosen his thing, it's there forever. Which means it's grotesque.
Yes, so
It's one of
he
the very
actually gets around list building. It's really strange, like because GW is wanting to do this thing in 9th edition, where like you literally choose like your Wall of Trace relics, psychic powers, etc., etc. as part of the list building stage. So if you're submitting your list to a tournament, you have to have all that stuff on it done and ready. But Mortarian gets around that because it does state like at the start of the first battle round, you pick a play company for him and he gains that Wall of Trace. So you can slightly tailor it to your matchup, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, you do. Cool.
Save it both.
Alright, the Shadow Specters survived the first mortar, no problem.
So we'll go entropy, both hit, both wound.
And this is into the Shining Spears.
Correct.
Alright, the Shining Spears have an invuln save as
So,
well.
then one's on the Exarch. Exarch fails. Damage is d3 plus 3.
Yes.
Okay, Exarch flops.
Oh, Shining
And
Spears.
squad up.
Oh no, that's rough. The Exarch's gone down on that free up
Yeah.
table.
The other one survived, but yeah.
Stubber.
And now for the Stubbers going to the same people.
Okay, this is also into the Spears.
Yes, the remaining. Just the remaining shot.
Mm-hmm.
One pass, one fail, it's 1 damage.
Any EP?
Yeah, -1, so you take the wound.
-1 takes a wound.
Cool.
Alright, well the
Next, we're
Shining
gonna put all the
Spears
line of sight stuff
are
into the
in line
target.
of sight. We expected this to
And
happen,
I will
sadly.
put mortar into,
If you wanted to keep the Shining Spears alive, they probably needed to be elsewhere.
I'll put
But,
it
yeah,
in the link.
Interesting positioning on those at the start of the game. Like he could have put them like behind this crate back here and just used them as like a counterpunch. I commented on this last time. I think the one weakness of this outer list was not running quicken.
Put it into the
So that
link.
those Shining Spears can literally go anywhere on the board. Because imagine if he had that and then was able to get into these like juicy, weak,
Okay, so damage 3 and if
dead
it
secured
hits,
units at the
it's
back
more
here on like turn 3, turn 4.
I'm gonna
Would
put
force
the
him to keep the
four
Death
shots
Shroud
and
back
finish
to
that
like
last
have to
move
deal
off
with
like
it.
that.
But
Yeah.
now with Death Shroud, you can quite happily just
one wound and
keep
-1.
moving up the board.
-1, so 4 up.
4 up save.
Failed.
Okay, one more Shining Spear goes down. I just don't see how the Shining Spears would have done very much in this game other than pick on the flanks like the Cultists or
Yeah,
the Foxwalkers
there,
or something like
there
that.
wasn't really much use.
And
Unfortunately,
they
being
were
damaged
big
2 when you have damage
Hurts.
reduction 1 is
Yeah.
not good.
And the move blocking there, Pants, I would disagree with that idea myself, but yeah. And that Shining Spear is now also toast. Okay, so that's the end of the Shining Spears. They've been Plague Burst crawlered. Now that does give the Eldar a
We are our
chance.
dying race. It's great to always see that. And
Roll
free.
one.
Yeah, you guys were dying anyway.
Warriors just go down as if it's nothing.
Alrighty, well, does the Viper take a wound? Yes. Do the Dire Avengers take a wound? No.
Okay, so
Alright, so the Lynx has been shot.
Yeah. how it's
The
done.
Viper took a mortal wound and the Dire Avengers did
Kill
not.
both and take flat 6, that would have been tasty. Okay.
Oh yeah, so what he did there, guys,
Going
was there's
to
a 1 CP stratagem for
uh,
Deathguard. He selects a Bladeburst Crawler, and its mortar becomes free damage, and then to everything within 3 inches
I'd like him to
of the
Falcon.
selected target after it's finished firing the mortar, you can deal a mortal wound to
one
on a
shot.
4+. It's probably one of the best stratagems in the book. It's absolutely amazing because damage free is great.
Morty's shooting the Falcon. Fails the wound, okay.
Fails to wound,
Lantern
and
does not
kill
work.
a Dire Avenger.
Oh, he remembered he had a lantern. Everyone forgets that.
Or
Like-
minus
And one of the Dire Avengers does get roasted.
I'll just pull it out.
Because it makes a straight line, so...
Okay,
Yeah.
that's it for shooting, so we're gonna go into the charge phase.
Charge phase time. So one of the
Okay,
reasons why
obviously,
putting the Shining Spears up
yeah,
there does not seem like a move block option to me is because Morty was on the south side.
Damage.
Getting warp
Mhm.
time to
You
cross
don't
that
get
way
overwatch
does not
Morty.
seem like a thing that he wanted to do. This is
And
a
the
much
blood
easier
runes
charge.
stuff like as well, so they can just hop over stuff.
You get no rerolls and you don't get to overwatch.
All right.
Okay.
So,
So I make my 8-inch charge.
8-inch charge into the Shadow Specters. That will probably be the end of them. Unless
Yeah.
Morty flops hilariously.
Oh,
And then into the
wait, I mean,
Warlock as
honestly,
well,
one
like
row is
for the
Warlock.
consolidate, well, so the Warlock has
I'm
to
not gonna
stay
bait
in
you, so I
combat
will
with him
continue
if
to
he wants
pile
to
in
cast.
after.
Now,
I'm
that's the
gonna
reason
roll
why they
my
have
attack
2
real quick.
Warlocks with these powers. But now
Yeah.
Morty's right in the middle of
So
denial
starting
range,
attack
which means that
on
the
2,
Doom and the Jinx
rerolling
aren't
1,
necessarily guaranteed.
And then on 2,
Oof.
rerolling 1.
Not where you want to be.
Wow.
That's a lot
Good
of
thing he's
damage.
re-rolling ones.
Okay.
Little ones. Okay.
So 17, that's obscene. 17.
Times 2. So
That's his sweep attack. It's just he's reducing toughness to these guys.
Now, he did a good job, but the Shadow Specters are dead.
Good. And I'm just gonna pile in here. Like so. And then I will consolidate.
Well, the Warlock's gonna get to hit him back.
And base
Like,
tag your link.
I guess the Warlock never foresaw this on the Sheer Council.
Yeah, and
like having to
there's-
fight Mortarion in combat.
I suppose that does tag the links, huh?
Just within an inch of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will swing back.
Sure thing.
Warlock has 2 swings.
Alright, so the Warlock could actually do some damage.
Do I have
You might
max
have
on the hit?
hit it.
Okay, force the hit.
Oh, double one.
Master Crafters,
1 hit.
Yep.
Who's
when you're on a 2, re-rolling, it wounds.
I don't
It's only a 3-up save here, so like,
and links 3.
wait,
3
doesn't that
swings,
wound?
6 is the- actually,
it's
what
a
happens when
Witch
you
Blade.
modify me to a
Wait,
seven?
yeah, I was. Never mind.
Like, hold on.
6 is always worse.
he
I
obviously
got
just
a
wanted to
hit.
like headbutt him or something.
So-
Like, yeah.
I'm fine with giving you a hit. I think
Okay, so it wounds.
I shouldn't have given it to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
Fire Spear,
back
warp
to
time on Mortarian's amazing.
Yep, so I'm
It
gonna
literally
give
puts you
for
for
2
one
points
deployment.
of
There's a
So-
reason I
and,
hate soup, and this is it.
turn.
But, you know what? Good old-fashioned clam chowder.
Okay, my
Um,
turn.
And
yeah,
Clock's
so it's
turn.
Creeper's turn. At this point, this is a
Massive
very
Warlock
interesting
has a
turn.
9-inch order now.
Sure.
I
12 inches
would
says you
love to
cannot
actually
reroll,
hear what you think
and,
are the ideas that Creeper needs to look into for this turn right now.
You talking to me or chat? Or both?
You, Erebor.
Okay.
Chat,
so...
chat does not respond immediately. You do.
Oh, I see. Put on the spot. Okay, yeah, so we've got Bell Reapers, we got a Lynx that can fall back and shoot quite happily. Other than getting rid of the Shining Spears, which weren't really going to do a huge amount this game, as for reasons pointed out, damage reduction 1. He literally just needs to get the Doom off, get the Jinx off, and put as much firepower into Mortarion as possible, plus go for as many smites as you can get onto Mortarion as well. Try to force a deny, maybe if you get a super smite, something like that. Try to force him to bait out something before you get to your 2 main spells, and also be outside of 12, because otherwise you will not be re-rolling those at all.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with the Eldar is, unless you're running like Wraith Blades right now, you have like not really a great fight phase at all. Like Shining Spears are good, but they're a precision instrument that needs to go into the back, so you can't really use them to like fight something that comes into your battle lines. You want them to be up the board and dealing with something on a home objective that's quite weak to remove it. So that's one of the issues with the codex that we're seeing in 9th edition. So he has to literally just hope for a good sort of like shooting phase to bring Mortarion down. Losing 1 unit of Shadow Specters already is really rough, because we know that they've got damage-free guns. But he's got another one in the back here. And I think, yeah, literally everything just goes into Mortarion, tries to kill him.
Yeah,
So
if
that's
Mortarion goes
all we
down,
do.
the pressure lessens considerably. And that will have been a worthy trade. 1 squad of Shadow Specters is not 490 points. Let's put it that way. But you know, on top of the CP expenditure that's had to been done and everything else, yeah. Now, Mortarion's not going to go down easily. As you mentioned before, Mortarion does have denies. Being the Deathguard Demon Primarch, he's got 3 of them. Like, he's got Cast 2, Deny 3, which is just... It's a lot. He hates Psychers, despite being one, apparently.
We're going to start it on that.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, 2-inch advance over there. Falchu's Wing on the Farseer allows the Farseer to just maneuver out of the way, and the only denies that are coming out are out of Mortarion right now. So there are 3 of them between Doom, Jinx, Guide, and stuff like that. We'll see. There's definitely going to be a couple smites popped out, hopefully, as well. Out comes the Viper. It's gonna sit on that objective and force the fetid bloat drones to go into it, as well as the Deathguard Demon Prince and everything else. Like honestly, the Viper is there to give the Deathguard some extra movement. I kind of hate it in this case.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I feel about that movement there. It's really gonna cost Creeper like a turn of primary. With that turn of primary though, after that, after Morty goes down, the pressure lessens considerably. So yeah, we'll have to see how that works out. There are a couple of also other nitpicky things that are going on here. The Plagueburst Crawler here will have sight on this Lynx. So both of them will be able to move into range to be able to kill off a Lynx. I expect that that's something that EDT is going to be working on. And now's the second phase. I'm going to turn on the volume now because this is going to be important.
The Warlock will start with casting Jinx on Mortarion.
Jinx on Mortarion
This is
first.
+1, correct?
Ooh, interesting.
On a 4 is not going to be enough.
Sure.
Reroll. 6 is not enough.
6 with +1 goes off on a 7.
So it
goes off
gets
on a 7.
You're cancelled.
I will.
So it gets +1.
No deny.
And I'll
failed.
CP that.
CP rerolling. No deny. Jinx goes off. Big deal. Big deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
-1 to invul save, so put into 5 up invul.
Okay.
Pretty big deal.
Farseer starting with Doom.
And only a 4 at normal save. Doom time. That's a 9. Using the runes of the Farseer to try to reroll the 2.
And reroll the 2.
Oh, it's an undeniable Doom. Undeniable Doom. That's a big deal. Big deal. We got rerolls, boys.
I won't.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got rerolls.
And everything's outside of 12, so he's not turning off rerolls.
Because of Ghost Helm. Save both. So
The mortal wounds of the Ghost Helm, from
Yeah,
rolling a double
unfortunate.
6. No big deal.
2 shots to roll 7.
I will also smite him.
Time for Smite. Let's see if Smite goes off.
Yeah.
Goes off on an 8.
On an 8. We wish to attempt to deny.
Who is that from? The park here?
Farseer.
So he has +1.
Yes. Rolled a 4 and a 3.
Creeper seems to have the
So I
best luck
used
when playing
two
Eldar. It's just
denies,
like, yeah,
so I
just
have-
roll an
no, I
11
only used
+1
one deny,
for
so
Doom.
I might
Like,
try.
ain't denying that.
It goes off. D3 mortals.
Oh no, you got denied. I rolled an 8.
Yes. If it's equal, I win.
Oh, I didn't know
4
what you
plus
rolled.
3
Sorry, I
with
thought
a
you rolled
+1.
7. You're good. You're good. Yeah. How many did I take?
2 mortal wounds onto
Two mortal.
Mortarion. 5 of Feeling Pains.
I
Do
think
not go
I'm
through.
over.
Mortarion's already down to 16. A good start.
Yeah, great start.
Okay.
Excellent
Got
start.
16 more to get through. Chat, do you think the Eldar can get through Mortarion right now?
You know what? Let's go ahead and make a poll. Manage poll. New poll.
Sounds
Does
good.
Morty die
8d6.
this turn? Yay.
Oof, not good. 20.
Nay. Who's Morty?
Force to hit.
You can go ahead and give additional votes. You guys have 2 minutes to vote. Go.
4s with 1 reroll. Oh, reroll 1. Yeah.
0 is because of the autarch, and then 1 because of this, and then 5's the
Yeah, yeah.
wound. 5's the wound, reroll because of Doom.
Oh my lord. Good thing. Oh my god, that's not what you wanted.
Fail both.
Those
I
both
won that.
fail.
Oh, Jinx. No, I have a 4 pinball.
Oh,
Oh,
Jinx.
wait. So you. Oh,
Jinx
okay,
affects the invul, my
Yeah.
dude.
That's right, 'cause you're
Yep.
-1 and I'm 3 up, 5 up. Yeah. Cool. I was hyped.
You're
I was like,
4
oh,
up,
I got
5 up.
take
Number
you.
2?
Okay.
I think that was the Shadow Specters?
That would not be enough. Shadow Specters do flat 3, not D3 damage. So it had to be something that does D3 damage.
Hitting on 4.
Okay, go.
Rerolling the 1 because of autarch and 1 free reroll because of crafters. 4 hits. 3's the wound.
Rerolling because of Doom. Oh no, these wound rolls aren't very good.
No.
Oh, the 2 invuln saves!
Star Cannon.
Animates.
Both miss.
No reroll.
And second wings.
Second links already.
Autarch,
Ugh.
crafters.
Okay, at least these all hit. This could be a big deal. Okay, rerolling all those because of Doom. Okay, that's much better. Much
Alright.
better. That's what he's looking
Oh,
for.
that's
That's
not
8
good.
damage.
I'm gonna. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and CP 1.
It's
CP
gonna
reroll
CP1.
does not work. That's 8 damage that he's going to have to disgustingly resilient. Oh, he makes
Oh,
half of
good roll.
them.
Doesn't matter.
So he takes another 4.
And I have a star cannon on the links.
Star Cannon on the links as well now, going in. Both, well, 1 hits.
5's the wound.
Yeah, it's minus
Ooh.
1 from me.
Rerolling.
Doom.
No, it's not enough. This is already not a great time. It's down to 10.
Going
It's
with
something.
the big
But
shot.
now it's the
Sorry.
Dark Reapers. Now it's the Dark
Probably
Reapers.
because hit on freeze, which is a big
Threes
plus.
to hit because
So
that-
they're ignoring the -1.
Yep, rerolling cone because Mastercrafter said so. That's really good already.
4's the wound. reroll because of the
Ooh.
Oh, this Morty's leading a charmed life. He should be super dead already. That's 3 invuln saves.
okay.
Holy crap! EDT has been praying to the dark gods.
Pulsar, miss.
Yeah, no rerolls.
Star Cannon, single hit, 5s to wound, fails to wound.
No. Yeah.
Shuriken Cannons.
He didn't die. That's like all the big firepower that
pretty
Creeper
heavy.
has, and Morty didn't die. He's not even close. He's not even bracketed the first way through. EDT has been actually just... He shoved a horseshoe up his butt for this. He has to have.
Cool. That's a brap.
Firing the Avengers squad into him.
Oh my, we're now picking at straws. He's at 9, so he has been bracketed once. Okay.
Force the hit. They are outside. They are in the no rerolls.
Yep.
2 wounds.
Okay.
EDT has passed like 80% of his invuln saves. What is this?
Oh, double feel no pain.
Fire a Viper into this Chaos Spawn.
Okay, well, let's at least see if the Viper can kill a Chaos Spawn, eh?
You're within 12, so no reroll.
Okay.
No, he's not within 12.
This is what this like chaos list does, though. It just
sorry, I guess I
goes
made it wrong.
Mortarion, I'm a distraction card effects.
You're good.
The rest of my army is completely untouched this turn.
It's not even a distraction card effects. A distraction card effects actually does something maybe half the time. Morty is an actual menace.
Yeah.
Hey,
As he should be, he's a Primarch.
Alright, so the Chaos Spawn is now dead. The Viper did something. Congratulations.
Well, sadly, I do believe that's it.
But Morty's passed like
Alright.
80% of his 5-up invuln saves.
Cool.
That was
well,
way too many.
Yeah, and here's the
No,
issue.
cool, man.
Like we're seeing it right now, is there's no fight phase because there's nothing in the outer army that fights. So he's
I
not
got
getting that
3
2
on
phases
banner.
worth of damage, right?
Yeah.
It's literally shooting. I shoot everything into you. If I kill you, great. If I don't, that's now a huge problem because you're literally in my deployment zone with Mortarion.
Just actually gross. That made me throw up in my mouth a little bit, if I'm going to be honest with you. I think I hated that. Okay.
Throw up in your mouth, and everyone's pleased.
Just, it's units like this that make me not want to play against Morty. Like, usually, models like that can be shot turn 1 and aren't supposed to be this fast. But he can be. That's just how this list works. And, like, it's not the fault of the players. EDT is a competitive player. He's looking for these kinds of things. It's just, it's super frustrating to see sometimes, because it's obviously not something that I was... it's just not a good feel time for anything. So, at this point, EDT has some interesting choices to make. The Sorcerer is obviously still alive. Mortarion is only on his 2nd bracket, which does not affect anything.
Yeah, nothing went into the Sorcerer, right? So
It
I
slows
think
him down a little bit, but that doesn't matter.
We spoke about Creeper and secondaries like last game, that he made a couple of misplays in regards to secondaries. That personally, I'd have just put that Falcon into that Sorcerer to kill him for assassinate, because that would have just been like an easy 3 points.
Yeah, and now that the Sorcerer is moving into a different position, we'll have to see how it works out. Right now, this links... here's what I expect will happen right now. EDT's current ideas are, okay, Mortarion now can corner the entire firebase. That turn will not happen again.
Yeah, that's ugly. Yeah.
Yeah. We've got 2 Blakeverse Crawlers that will be able to get line of sight on one of these Lynxes. That Lynx is going to get 4 Entropy Cannons to the face. It is not likely to survive this turn. Morty will also be able to move and charge it. Even with his reduced movement, I think he's still has, like, if not 10, then 8 inches of movement with flying. It's enough. The Shroud Terminators are currently looking for a charge on this Falcon, which was a little bit too aggressively placed.
Yeah.
I think. And then now the Dark Reapers are kind of out in the open as well. So Morty could just be like, you know what, screw it, I'll kill the Dark Reapers. Potentially, but I think his best option is honestly move in, kill off the Shadow Specters, tag another Lynx, and force another 2 CP expenditure.
Get back in the Falcon with Fire and Fade.
No, the Dire Ventures are still out there.
Oh no, Dark Reapers, sorry. So, alright, so Dark Reapers back in the Falcon, yeah.
Yeah, the Dark Reapers are back in the corner right now.
Yeah.
It's fine. They have enough range, and honestly, with the Shroud Terminators that are going to want to go onto this objective, you know, they'll probably hurt the Falcon a great deal, The Dark Reapers will be able to move in such a way as to potentially get line of sight on them, and they'll be necessary for killing Mortarion next turn anyway, if they can kill Mortarion, because apparently an entire army of shooting is not enough to get past a 5-up invuln save and a 5-up feel no pain.
Yeah, so 7-inch charge for these Death Shroud.
It's a really good turn for... That was a really good turn for EDT, and not good for Creeper, sadly.
Yeah, I mean, he played the odds, right? Okay, so Doom is great because reroll. You know, Jinx is great because reduction of save. What you got to remember is that Mortarion is still toughness 8, and a lot of the Eldar firepower is strength 8. The only thing that bypasses that is the 2 links. So on average, you're winning on force with reroll, going to a 5-up invul, but then the one thing you can't affect is damage reduction 1 and the 5-up feel no pain. So that's just a million laser saves plus the -1 to hit as well. So yeah, there was a chance that he could do it, but I think it was more likely to be like about a 60 to 65% chance that he one-shots Mortarion turn 1. So he went for it. Unfortunately, it didn't pay off. He still will have resources to deal with Mortarion next turn. It's just that everything's clumped up in this corner, which is really bad, because Mortarion can definitely get in there, tie up the Shadow Specters and the links, and that's going to be difficult. I personally, I would have, like, the one links that was tagged, I'd have moved it into this corner here, and that way you make Mortarion make the decision of either going this way or going this way, and it means that you're not having everything, because everything is bunched up in this corner, which is really bad. And remember, guys, Mortarion doesn't need like a warp time like this turn, so there's potential to advance the Sorcerer and maybe warp time a Droner, which gives him another problem to deal with.
Or the Deathguard Demon Prince, because that thing's got the droning on it. So if that thing gets up there with the extended range on the droning, suddenly the Eldar army's moving at half speed as well, which is bad. I'm not sure if I've made that abundantly clear. There's also bloat drones that are coming up on that flank. Like, hilariously, the Deathguard seem to have outmaneuvered and cornered the Eldar, which is not the Eldari way of war. At all. So
I mean, when you include warp time, that's going to happen, though, right? Like, that makes you faster than Eldar, which is a problem with the game. Like, you know?
Yep.
But I'm not going to get into like how Space Marines are now faster than Eldar as well, which is wrong. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's focus. Instead of going, oh no, the Eldar are screwed, they're not. They definitely have some options here, but this is definitely something I've noticed with Creeper's play, is that his movement tends to be... It has some issues, and he does forget about some units sometimes when he really shouldn't, and EDT is currently punishing that idea, that lack of thinking quite badly right now. He's somehow managed to corner an entire army within a no rerolls bubble, that could potentially also be moving at half speed, depending on how he moves the Sorcerer and the Deathguard Demon Prince. The Demon Prince is now moving on to this objective to hold it. And the Deathguard are all over the board. They're on all 3 quarters of the board without any issue. They're about to be in a 4th if these Death Shroud Terminators make their charge into the Falcon. And EDT is going to aim to kill off the Lynx, wipe out the Shadow Specters, and tag some more stuff. Which means that suddenly at least half the firepower that Creeper had last turn will be gone. He's also expecting to seriously damage this Falcon with the Death Shroud Terminators if they can make the charge. So,
They'll kill it. The Death Shroud Terminators, they kill anything they touch.
Just about, yeah. I mean, even if they go for the smash attack, like, they're still hitting at strength 7, which is, wounding on 4s, rerolling ones. It's not great.
Reducing toughness by 1, so 3s.
3s. Good point, yeah, because yours, for some strange reason, does affect vehicles.
Yeah,
anyway.
I'm not sure he
so...
will not get that because he is suit. Forgive me, you're quite right. He will be winning on 4s, so he will not get contagion reduction in toughness.
Aha. It's 5 CP to 3 CP for EDT and Creeper respectively, by the way. Creeper had to use quite a few last turn to do the fallback and fire and all that stuff. So
that's when you're in a bad position as Eldar, when you're just burning through CP, like to do like all your tricks defensively, which is not what you want to be doing.
Curry is wagging his finger at you, by the way, however.
Why?
Because of what you already mentioned, that there is no toughness reduction right now. So, now...
I mean, to be fair, he does have vets for 1 CP, so that is technically toughness reduction because he just gets +1 to wound.
I don't think it's going to be that important. Okay, the Sorcerer has moved down here to give warp time to the Death Shroud Terminators. So it seems that that was the plan all along. I might have gone the other way with it, but I see the reasoning here.
Yeah, because those drones are in a great position. Remember, guys, the drones have a stratagem to just heroically intervene 5 inches as well, which is kind of cute. So if he just leaves that drone back there, where can these lynxes actually go? Bearing in mind that they're going to have their movement reduced by half as well.
Not necessarily. Not anymore.
If he flash outbreak, what's his CP at right now?
5.
Then he didn't. Okay.
Yeah. No flash outbreak. The Deathguard Demon Prince with the droning is not anywhere near the lynxes, so the lynxes will, if they're still alive, be able to move at full speed. And there is a good chance that the lynx might survive here. There is enough CP to do lightning fast reactions, to deal with the Entropy Cannons, and then just enough CP after that to do the fallback and shoot. But
this is one reason why Deploy Scramblers is really rough against Deathguard. The template of those Plague Burst Crawlers is huge. So
yeah.
He's looking at screening that out right now, which he can very much easily do with 2 Plague Burst Crawlers and the Poxwalkers and the Tallyman who's just hanging out, you know. And I'm glad to inform you all, is he 7 inches from the board edge? Oh, maybe very. He is. Yes, there we go.
Just.
Love it. So yeah, very easy to screen out as Deathguard. So Scramblers can be difficult to get against them for this very reason, because the Plague Burst Crawler is very difficult to shift, and a great template for stopping Scramblers as well.
Okay, one of the Plague Burst Crawlers has moved out. The Cultists are covering where he was, where the Plague Burst Crawler moved away from. This is an interesting concept I've started learning in chess, is that every time you move a pawn or any other piece, they might be moving someplace where they can attack something, but what they were just guarding or defending has now lost a defender. What EDT is doing here is making sure that he's covering his bases. His Plague Burst Crawler has moved out into range to be able to shoot the lynx, but to cover for the gap that he's now made, he's using the Cultists to make sure that those Striking Scorpions and the Rangers are not getting in there. He's got his bases covered. He's continuing to keep his fortifications up and running. And unlike the Imperial Guard, the Eldar don't have a means of deep striking closer than 9 inches, so they're just sitting there, unable to deploy Scramblers easily. They're going to have to rely on a late game deploy Scramblers with something like the Rangers popping up, or the Shadow Striking Scorpions popping up somewhere in the middle, and then moving their way up the board. Which, honestly, actually, how would Striking Scorpions fare against a squad of 10 Poxwalkers and a squad of 10 Chaos Cultists?
Not great.
You're kidding!
the Cultists, they might kill, like, 5. Like, maybe. Like, the Poxwalkers, because they're T4, like, even less.
Word.
Yeah, it's sad. It's really sad. If a unit needs looked at, it's them. Like,
so, Fire Spear 1, the Imperial Guard have a stratagem called Daring Descent that works with their Scions. It allows the Tempest Scions to drop in within just outside of 5 inches of someplace. They just can't charge. But this does mean that you can deep strike an entire squad of Plasma Scions behind someone's enemy lines, or just regular Scions just to get that easy deploy Scramblers. It's actually a really powerful tool that my buddy's been using, and I hate it to bits. It's almost impossible to screen. Unless if you have, I don't know, 40 Necron Warriors, another 10 Gauss Immortals, another 9 Tomb Blades, 2 Doomsday Arcs, and a couple of other things backing you up. Yeah, it's difficult.
Speaking of the Demon Prince, and he's here to party as well. He's looking at this Viper right now.
Oh no, the Viper's toast. The fetid blow drones are looking to charge literally anywhere else, but this Deathguard Demon Prince, like they'll probably charge the Viper for the extra movement, but the Deathguard Demon Prince will charge the Viper, then hide behind the blow drones, and the blow drones will be like, okay, come at me. I've got this objective. You will never take it from me ever again. Especially not with your Obsec, who cannot kill a fetid blow drone to save their lives, especially not the ones with the flesh mowers. The Deathguard Demon Prince also will be able to do his charge, and going first probably with the charge. I would expect him to be picked first, just so that way he can get the pile-in, the consolidate around, and then potentially get the droning off on the links and stuff like that.
Yeah, so that's great. Yeah, good plan.
Yeah, because Morty does not need to go first. Morty's not dying in combat, right? So, okay, we're doing some movements. They're looking for line of sight right now. This Plague Burst Crawler used to be able to see the links. I think it can see the tip of the wing. Yeah, it can. So there should be an Entropy Cannons coming out there, and Entropy Cannons coming out of the other one. Shame that the Deathguard Demon Prince of the Viper almost blocked line of sight completely.
I mean, you could argue this Viper is actually blocking line of sight right now.
Just, but it's not enough, sadly. If you go into first-person mode, which you can do in TTS by pushing the
first-person camera.
First-person camera, which controls like a very wonky flight game, you can still see the fin of the Lynx over that way on the other side. So, you know, that's a thing.
I want one of those in real life, like first-person camera. Just like GoPro, and I'm gonna stick it to like my tanks.
Oh man, I just want a GoPro that I can put on like a little stick or something like that, so I can get like some really cool down on the ground shots. That'd be sick. Let's go ahead and turn on the volume of the players right now, because they are actually going through a shooting phase and a second phase.
All of them?
It was 2 saves, but
2 saves. Okay, fails all of them. Takes 2 damage.
6 up to ignore it. Or?
Yep, failed them.
The Lynx is down to 4 wounds already.
Okay, cool. Alright, next one's gonna mortar at the Reapers, Stubber at the Dire
Mortar at the
Avengers,
Reapers.
And Entropy to the Falcon.
And Entropy
Depends,
into the
if
Falcon.
someone brought
Okay.
a laser pointer to one of my
Infantry
tabletop games, I would just
That's
be bashing on them constantly. I'd be like, "You're such a nerd."
Oh no, it's actually really helpful for kill team.
I know it is. I know it is. I just think that is such a nerdy like thing to do, like in like a pickup game. in
Having
game
a
store.
wide line laser pointer is actually super helpful for determining obscuring and stuff like that.
Yeah.
2 die.
So 2 of the Dark Reapers are dead due to
Cool.
mortars. This is the
One
danger of
behind
leaving them out of the Falcon.
Nice.
And
It's like
then
Curie was going on about
3 hits
this like
to the
app
Stubber,
that can like do like a 9-inch bubble like from your phone on units and stuff. It's like if someone brought that to like a game, I'd be like, "You are such a nerd."
So okay,
Sweet, he's chilling.
You gotta
Laser
bash on
pointer?
when you're both nerds,
So
you gotta
what
bash
are
on
we
the other
gonna
nerd, right?
Murder this guy with a pistol.
oh, we're shooting the lantern. It's murdering people, hopefully.
He
And
wounds.
wounds. 4
Yeah,
percent.
strength 8.
He dies.
There goes the Warlock. He is toast. There's
So I'm
a
gonna
very dead thing
send
there. It's worth mentioning the
these
Deathguard Terminators were warp timed,
to
Oh yeah,
because that's some
increase
fun
the play
and
range of
good
the
rules interaction.
gun.
and it shouldn't exist.
And
Like,
he's gonna have 18-inch range. He's gonna shoot the Dire Avengers.
Like that should be Legion locked.
And he rerolls them.
that's the thing
And
that should be
I'm gonna
Legion
get
locked.
3D and reroll the 3.
Okay.
Oh.
Legion locks are who though? Because you
Cool.
just take
One
Mark
guy
of Siege
takes
and
the
use
data
it.
minus 3.
Like, you know.
Well, lock to the Legion of the Sorcerer.
Sweet. Alright. They're indestructible. I'm not even gonna bother shooting that. Fine.
They're playing on a chess clock, by the way. As far as time
we shot
goes,
That, we shot that.
um,
we shot him. Demon Prince
it
is
seems to be
slain
counting
there,
up.
but
So
he doesn't
EDT is
wanna
used
do
37
that,
minutes.
so he's gonna
Creepers use
shoot
23.
you.
That includes
So,
deployment
yeah,
and everything.
thanks,
So
charge phase. Morty's gonna
the Wartime
go,
Sorcerer should
and
be
you
renamed to
denied my
Slingshot.
extra
Agreed,
again,
Fire
right?
Spear.
Doesn't matter.
Yes.
Still
9
9
plus
inches.
a 10.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go into the Shadow Specters.
Yeah, the Shadow
murder
Specters are
them,
probably
and then
dead.
Pile into the link. Actually, I'm gonna charge both because you might heroic me and base me.
And he's going to charge into the Lynx
So
as
I'm
well.
gonna
Now, the
charge
Lynx is alive
both
on 4
and
wounds.
Probably not the charge.
Um,
I can just sit there without being
Not where you want the Lynx to be.
So
It will
I
probably
can't
die
roll
because
for it.
Mortarion will put 1 or 2 attacks into there, and
but
then
I
the
will
rest of
roll
the
it
swinging
anyway.
attacks to the Shadow Specters. We'll have to see.
Okay, it's a 6.
6, that's
So we're
sufficient.
just going here.
One of the reasons why I hate this
I'll
is because
do the
Mortarion
initiation
feels like he's
and you
so
can
easy
roll
to
if
play
you
with.
want to.
I did. You can go.
Cool.
What, you just eat them up the board and
Yeah,
it.
like you yeet him up the board and his, or like you just, like, really, I'm not sure where like the high grade tech plays have come out of this Mortarion outside of I warp timed him.
Oh yeah, you kind of cleared out.
I hope I survive, and then if I survive,
You just
Then-
keep on
then
charging me
I'll-
into people. He's just a battering ram.
Mm-hmm.
It takes
Fine,
very
so
little
I'll go
finesse to make this
first.
thing work. It's like Dark Angels.
7, the next
it's someone about a bit salty about Tau being quite a while off getting a codex or something.
Oh, that hurts. Anyway, Horticultures mentions always be charging. Yep, know your ABCs with him. Speaking of always be charging, all 3 charges from the Fetid Blowjones and the Deathguard Demon Prince are into the Viper. The Viper effectively actually was a detriment to his team. If he wanted to be out there, he should have been way out there. Like, I'm talking like the front of this objective to make sure that if anybody got pylons and charges, they were far away.
Okay, we got 10.
We got another charge from the Deathshot Terminators. These guys were going directly into both the Falcon and the Dire Avengers. The Dire Avengers are dead, at which point they will pile in and, you know, tag the Falcon, but more importantly, take the objective away. This is going to be a 0-point primary turn for Creeper, and it's going to be another 15-point primary for the Death Guard. There's no stopping them now.
It's pretty grim.
It's extremely
On
grim.
a 6?
Not killing Mortarion turn 1 was a game-defining moment here,
No,
for sure.
definitely not. I actually get to this part of the wall.
I mean,
but, like,
he might get him
yeah,
next turn. He's still got a lot of firepower on the board.
Yeah, that's fine.
Like, because the link,
I'll just
if he
hang
doesn't
out.
kill the links, then...
If he doesn't kill the
Back
Lynx, the Lynx
here.
can fall back
Right,
and try to
so
shoot.
go to
It's
the dark
wounded
phase,
badly, though.
fight phase.
Oh,
I'll
yeah,
come
that Lynx
here,
is probably
I'll
toast.
do. I'm down a bracket. I'm down to 18 attacks now, and I'll do.
Oh, you know, only 18 attacks.
I'll do.
What
all
the
but
hell
one.
is this character? Jesus Christ!
He's a Primarch! He's
gonna
the
have
stat
it.
line of what every Primarch should be. Like,
Highland-
the
If I'm
thing is, I
interested-
look at this, and now I look at Gilman, and I go, Gilman's
Highland
underpowered.
like this.
Like,
His,
'Cause
all of
he-
his power relies on rerolls, which Mortarion just
Or
turns
obviously
off,
within
though.
of your status
Yeah.
features, so I can fight them.
You cannot go that far. You are.
this is the power that, like,
Yeah,
a
I
Primarch
can't
should
even
be.
really see
And I'm
it that
glad
well. I'm just
GW
trying to-
did it,
Oh,
because
something like that.
this is what a Son of the Emperor should be, that's then blessed by Nurgle. As
Oh
the
yeah,
chosen
interesting
one.
question actually out of Protoculture. Sorry to interrupt, but I actually want to hear this one immediately.
So
Do you
within
think there's going to be a more or less than a 35
And-
point spread between this game, based off of how this looks? That's
yeah,
telling me
I
that
think we're
Protoculture
waiting
thinks
to
that
get
this
to
game
the
is already
other
over. And I'm wondering what the rest of the chat thinks as
Right.
well. I don't think it's over. I do think that
Well, they're gonna be
that Creeper's
dead,
on
so I can
heavily on
file
the back
3
foot for
swords
sure.
and Whatever. I think this is as close
And
as
yes,
No,
Malice,
no,
I agree.
There's
It's fair.
still play. You still play with Eldar.
Link,
Like,
Mhm.
you still got
five
you still got
into
assets. You still got Dart Reapers. You've got a
What's their armor
Lynx.
type?
You know, and if they have a
3
good round of
possible.
shooting, then especially with like Doom,
So
more
this
turns
would be, 5
goes
attack?
down. Like,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sounds
the and on top of that, I
combat
forgot
boost?
he has Chapter Master rerolls.
yeah, it makes
Usual one.
Gilman look a bit
Mhm.
kind of bad.
Naff,
right now.
yeah.
that
That
many?
is.
But we'll have to see what they do with like Magnus. We'll have to
Look
see
now.
what.
Oh,
they...
Magnus is going to get this treatment again. Is going to get this treatment. Mark my words. Now you will not be able to put them in the same soup. Would be my guess.
Cool.
Shadow Specters are
And
dead.
one
Surprise,
point.
surprise.
Yep, they're gone.
Yeah, this is why I was thinking maybe don't put them on the board.
And then it-
No, that surprised me too.
Okay, AP.
Like I don't rather have that
minor
second
info.
wave to come in on
Uh,
Mortarion.
Oh, you.
Damage.
Okay.
And try to deal with them.
minus
The
4,
putting them on the border
and,
was a bit of a surprise because they deep
minus
strike for
4,
free.
Yeah, minus 4
And even that, okay, yeah, he's screened out fine.
Oh, you have spirits.
But literally, you could go, all right, cool. Mortarion's in my backline. Your warp time's used. I literally use the
Spirit
super fast movement
Stones.
on my
Only
links.
one works. That's 5 damage. The Lynx is dead as well. Does he explode? No.
So
That's the end of the
I
Lynx.
Alright. So
use
now
the
this
super
is
fast
focus
movement on my links, and
model.
I just play your deployment
You
zone.
would have
And
no
Mortarion's
time.
over here without warp time.
Yeah, I can't get the volume. Well, I will.
Because I've played against
go
Mortarion as Eldar, and I
into-
literally ignored him the entire game.
Can I get into anything
If you can
else?
if you can ignore him against the EDT's list, you can't because warp time exists.
No
He's
doing
literally
that.
already there.
I'll
So
just
even when he
come
comes in and
there
has that
say
first punch,
an inch
like
away
you've got
from
the speed to just go
you.
forwards and just ignore him
What's
and
the
go,
move?
yep, you
No
killed
range,
a
no
thing, you're now in my
range,
deployment
18.
zone, and your warp time is well out of range.
Yeah. Now, I imagine that would have been actually an interesting play to see the entire Eldar army just transfer to the other side of the map.
Yeah, just shoot across-
Okay,
Somehow.
Yeah, I'm gonna come this way a bit.
And like
Right
really
there.
transferred hard on this northern side of the map. Maybe even like
that's
tag
fine.
the Playburst
I'm not
Crawler
gonna-
with the Viper or something that could that could
over
advance the
here,
charge.
I'll
Not that
do
anything really
the
can.
defense
This is a rough time. Look, and this is nothing necessarily against Creeper, although I do believe that there are a couple of things here that went
On
against
two,
him in
it's
terms
no
of
reroll.
his choices.
Okay.
More
Wow.
importantly,
on 3.
more
No
importantly,
reroll.
his
Two,
dice
3 for
turn
3.
1.
3
But
for
yeah,
3.
Morty is just an
6
oppressively
to-
strong character. This happens.
Alive on
He
2
lives.
wounds.
He's alive on 2
His
wounds.
Claw, which hits. His claw, which wounds.
Claw, which hits and
Minus 2
wounds.
for
So the
3.
Demon Prince actually was chosen to fight first, not the fetid bloat drones.
The
I'm surprised.
drone number 1. Oh, sorry, I'm just gonna.
But that might have just been for movement in case he chose to base him, because I think they're all equidistance, and he wants this
So
Demon Prince
turn
just, yeah,
2,
there we
so
go. He
your
wants the Demon Prince
moves
just
on
going,
these dudes will
skirting
be
around,
half,
getting that droning effect off in
and-
everything
I mean, not
in
that it
that
really
back
matters.
corner.
Drone number 1.
It would have been easier to kill the bloat drones than it would have been to kill Mortarion. As we found out, it turns out that
5 and
having a
minus
5-up
2.
invuln, -1 damage, and a 5-up
Ah,
feel no pain is
poor
just
guys.
too many layers of defense to
Ah.
guarantee a kill on
That
any
doesn't
point of the game.
explode. It does.
The
Yeah,
Viper
Mortarion-
explodes. Interesting. It
Wait.
does like what, 1 to
Everyone-
D3 mortal wounds to everything
Oh,
around it.
this one, because it's
Alright,
less than
and the
9.
other one's not gonna even bother hanging out there. Basically.
Chat says that
okay.
Creeper's already lost like 1,000
Here.
points. Losing 2 squads of Shadow Specters,
We're
1
gonna
Lynx, and a
do
Viper is
all
not
the
1,000
attacks
points,
into
but it is
dire
quite a lot of
number.
firepower.
I think that's quite accurate, actually.
Oh, really? How much is a lynx?
Okay.
Like
So it's 26 attack.
280 plus Shadow Specters is about. Shadow Specters ain't cheap, and he's running
Three
big
to
blobs
roll.
to them.
Oof.
I'll calculate it. I'll calculate it.
Yeah, you calculate it because when I was playing against you with my
20
Tau and you had lynxes, I was like,
Right.
oh, this, you know, that
Nice
lynx
one.
seems like it's still probably cheaper than my Riptide by at least, you know, 50 to 60 points.
What's the damage?
One.
1. So 1 wound remaining. He dies, and 5 up from everyone else. Unit con.
Yeah, the Dire Avengers are super dead as well, which means now that these the Death Shroud Terminators take the objective without even trying. Okay.
Sweet. Your fight back and.
Yep.
It's about 750.
Yup. Yup.
Okay.
Yup. Okay.
Well, let's do. I guess.
Yup.
Let's do my. Okay, you are out of water. I have only the Falcon. 3
Yep.
swings, hitting on 6s.
I'm not even sure why he's bothering to
Uh,
attack with the Falcon necessarily, but I hear you. It's dire straits. It does wound. They have a 2-up save on the Terminator.
2 up. Think so.
It passes. Surprise, surprise. The Death Shroud Champion takes no damage.
Over to my turn.
Yep. Your go. I got the rip gauge.
Oh my lord. Okay. So 3 for engage there, off of that turn, which leaves our score right now at 33 to well, you see it right there, folks. No primary for Creeper. He still has engaged on all fronts. He's deployed 1 Scrambler and is now running out of units to deploy the other 2. He has got 0 for Assassinate.
And yeah, there's just a hole where Mortarion was stood. Like, there's just no units there anymore.
Yeah, look, Erever, I know we've talked about this in like the media chat, okay? We are trying our best to stay as positive as we can, because the thing about Warhammer is that it's an interesting game. There's always interesting plays that you can try to make. It's a fun game, right? And there's interesting tactical decisions that can be made at any stage, and
So,
you know, no
okay,
one's ever necessarily down and out. It's a dice game.
I think, like, his option right now, like, I think the huge mistake that got punished was not killing the Sorcerer, like, with the Falcon or whatever. So, because the Sorcerer was completely open, not lookout sword, and that would have been 3 points on Assassinate. Plus, you're removing, like, warp time from next turn.
Yeah, that would have been a really good target for, say, the Falcon
That
to
would have
put
been
some
a good
shots
kill.
into.
And I also think maybe going like, oh, Mortarion's in my backline. Cool, he's killed like a unit. We already spoke about leaving the Shadow Specters in reserve.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I've got Mortarion in my backline. Cool, he's killed like some Dire Avengers or whatever. And then just literally use that 38-inch advance on the Lynxes and a Falcon and just go, right. And then kill the Sorcerer. Maybe pick up a drone or a couple of Terminators and go, I'm here and I'm in your deployment zone. And now Mortarion's in my backlines and can only move like 12 plus d6 inches for an advance.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
that would have been like, you've got to, like, Eldar are still very quick, and when you see something like Mortarion, you either hedge your bets on trying to kill him, which is fair. You know, there was a chance that he does just kill Mortarion, or you go, he's here, you're not going to get back to your backlines, and I'm going to have a lot of shots on all your OBSEC units and be able to like just remove them this turn, plus the Sorcerer as well. So getting 3 points on that secondary, all your OBSEC's gone too.
Yeah, that makes sense to me and really plays to the Eldar's strengths. And I agree that the Chaos Sorcerer made a big difference, because the first turn you couldn't stop the warp time, and if the Eldar had gotten first turn, that would have made a big difference to hurting Mortarion enough that, like, okay, you know, game's still on. But Mortarion getting in there, warp time, okay, fine. You kill the Sorcerer. That means that the southern objective would have scored primary for the Eldar. Those Death Shroud Terminators would probably not have made that long bomb charge and removed the OBSEC at the same time. I don't think. So yeah, that's a problem. And right now, the 2 Plagueburst Crawlers are lined up in such a way that they could easily move out and shoot this Lynx again. So like EDT is looking at a really strong turn with 4 Entropy Cannon shots again. And right now, the firepower that the Eldar were sporting, which I thought was superior to what the Deathguard could do, is already sitting at a point where, like,
believe me, like, if you, especially with like 2 contenders, like 2 Plagueburst, great, one of them's getting prescience, but that's tame.
yeah,
Like, compared to like a couple of contenders thrown into the mix as well. But everyone seems to underestimate Deathguard firepower, and it is really good. Like, just because of the changes to the Plagueburst Crawler, hitting on freeze, and then two of the main damage weapons rerolling once to win because they're play weapon.
Now 5 up invulns. Most have failed. It's 6 damage. Only 1 feel no pain, so that is 5 damage on Morty. He's down to 4 HP left.
I will fire my Autark with his fusion pistol.
There's a fusion pistol from the Autark here, hitting on a 3 because unless if Miasma is denied.
He hits, I believe. You don't have the
I don't have Miasma.
Miasma was not put on. It wounds.
AP4.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's saved.
Safely.
Firing the Lynx.
Now the Lynx has to go in. So if Morty does die here, that will afford a little bit of counterplay, but the point differential right now is statistically super significant. So
Did the Darius even get out this turn?
they're over here in the corner.
Sorry, what's your shot?
I don't think they moved,
Lynx.
but they could still see Morty from where they were. So
Yeah.
2 damage. Okay.
CP rerolling the other Lynx shot. Okay, both invuln saves. Again, EDT keeps up his like 75% invuln save. No problem.
No. I will fire my Falcon into your death.
The Falcon's going straight into the death shrouds. It's at 12 out of 12 wounds, so we can try to shoot. 1 hit.
Single hit, 3's the wound.
Rerolling because of crafters. No wound.
Your cannon. Single hit, 3's the wound. Fails the wound. Cannon. All hit. And 5's the wound.
I'd say this, Susie, it's never over. Like, you know, like, Etomchin's been rolling really hot on saves for Morty, so that's got to pan out eventually, right?
You'd think so, but he's still alive on 4 wounds after the entirety of what's left of the Eldar firepower on the entire list. Is that things? So now the Autark is having to charge. Everybody's like everybody that can charge Morty has to charge on this turn. If Morty doesn't go down this turn, it's game over. Like again, like I was saying before.
Here we go, Autark power for the Craftworlds. Let's just get that power sword.
Yeah, that power sword at strength 4, wounding on 6s. Great. Like
you gotta believe, man. You gotta believe. Like,
I can't though. I've been in this situation so many times that like. This is the bravest Autark that's ever existed. Let's go ahead and put it that way.
I like this Autark. He's almost like Aravar. Almost as good as him.
Almost. He's almost the exact same model, too. A bunch of hits.
Sorry, no reroll for you.
Oh, yeah, no rerolls.
So.
Fives.
You had 1 too many mistakes.
Yeah, you had 1 too many times.
AP1, AP3, 1 damage.
I like the old damage to him.
No, not yet. 5 of feeling pain.
Could say on a 4-up you had an extra wound.
The Warlock has 2 swings. 3's to hit. Both hit.
Get out of here.
2's to wound. Both wound. Okay, these are 4-up saves because of Jinx.
So,
No, whoa!
Can you kill me? Hold on.
Maybe.
It could be enough. He needs to roll really high. No, he re-rolled one of the saves. Of course. Yeah. Okay. What's that one model on the home objective? It is the Farseer with the foul shoes wing.
You can swing.
And Morty kills both of them.
Yeah.
I will go 4 into the X-Arc.
4 attacks into the X-Arc.
Up
Now remember, he's also got Mastercrafted Chapter Master rerolls going on right now because he can give those to himself for reasons.
All wound. 4 of
Because he's a Primarch. Like, I want to see every, like...
The Autark is dead.
Yep.
Drazar's pretty cool.
How is he pumping himself up to this point, though? He shouldn't give himself a reroll. That's what the core rule is for! Anyway.
1 and 2, 3.
So 3 wounds ago.
So 3 4-up invulnerables needed for this Warlock to live. The Warlock is dead, too.
Warlock's toast.
So, Mortarion got 2 kills, gets the Paladin 3 inches closer towards everything else. It's... Look, okay, chat, I'm gonna say this one last time. We, at this channel, like to try to be as positive as possible about these kinds of situations. As it turns out, Morty is still alive at the start of turn 3. And this is usually the time when you say, okay, that's probably a sign.
I think mistakes were made. I'll say that much. I think on the Eldar, I think mistakes were made that we covered in the pregame.
For sure.
Like, you know, maybe he's just Creeper's not used to playing against this sort of thing. Because sure,
Who is?
Well, I play Deathguard, so I'm like quite accustomed to this style list. You know, I've played it myself a couple times, but it's not the kind of style that I enjoy running, so I don't play it too often. But there's still don't get me wrong. There's still things that Eldar can do. You know, they're not like out of it. We've got Dark Reapers untouched. We've got a full, links.
You forgot about striking scorpions again, or either that or they are deploying scramblers, which I think is more accurate.
Yeah, they're deploying scramblers. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So look, EDT's turn is very simple. The Plagueburst Mortars go into Dark Reapers and murder them horribly. These Death Shroud Terminators are going to be able to wipe out the Falcon, no problem. This Sorcerer that's alive on 2 wounds is going to probably just hang out with the Death Shroud Terminators and not die for the rest of the game. Morty's going to wipe out the Farseer, removing Doom and Jinx from the table. These Dire Avengers are dead due to fetid bloat drones. This Lynx will be dead by the end of the turn due to Entropy Cannons. And yeah, I'm expecting this game to be either a practical tabling by the end of this turn, or literally a tabling, with the exception of the Rangers that are currently in Deep Strike.
Sorry, the Rangers are going to Deep Strike in and do 2 more wounds to Morty and kill him.
Yes, and then they get Plagueburst mortared and murdered. Morty might die by the end of the game. At this point, that's the only victory that Creeper's looking for, is the moral high ground one. And that's the one I'm rooting for, okay? If Morty can die here, then we can all kill Morty, at least once.
It's just taking 2,000 points of models with reroll to wound 3 turns to do it, right?
Yeah. Pants points out an interesting one. So the Striking Scorpions are pretty sad, deploying Scramblers and not scoring Engage, and the 3 victory points on Assassinate. Yeah, they could have actually charged that turn into the Sorcerer and actually potentially killed him. He still is just a regular Chaos Marine at the end of the day, and these Striking Scorpions do have Scorpion Chainswords. Lots of them at Strength 4, with rerolls and all that stuff. It might have been possible. The Manda Blasters could have killed them too. There's options. But, yeah, no, there's potential for 3 extra points there if they instead of deploying Scramblers, they had charged and killed the Sorcerer.
Yeah, I mean, coming out for a 9-inch is rough, but maybe. Again, like we saw this last game, like there was better places these Scorpions could have gone for.
Were there? There were too many drones and everything up here. There's no Poxwalkers.
Engage on all fronts.
I don't think there was actually a way to deploy to get engage on all fronts without being in the middle. And being in the middle stops you from getting engage on all fronts because you're within 6 inches of the middle.
No. What I'm saying is, like, so he could have gone like over here with them into the north, I think.
No,
around.
There were the drones there at the time.
I thought the drones were like over here.
And then there's also the Poxwalkers over on the right side, extending a huge area of.
You're quite right.
Yeah, no, there's no room there. There's no room on the south to do the way the Death Shroud Terminators were and everything. And where the Foul Blight spawn was, like, the only place to put the Striking Scorpions was in the middle, sadly. And that's the only place where the Rangers are going to be able to deploy it, except for maybe back here, up where you were pointing, to try to get a kill on Mortarion, which would be hilarious.
Yeah, Striking Scorpions fighting Mortarion, winning on 6s.
Also, Pants points out a good point. If he kills the Mortarion, that's also 3 victory points for Assassinate, so it's not just a moral victory.
Yeah, dice for Assassinate, right?
I misunderstood what Pants was saying, yeah. But I'm also going to go ahead and pretend that Pants was smart enough to realize that the Striking Scorpions were probably best used for VP trying to charge instead of deploying Scramblers, which will not be possible in this game. At least I don't think they will be. 5 Rangers are not going to survive a squad of 10 Poxwalkers. If Striking Scorpions weren't, then... Yeah. Oh, man. It's hard to remain enthusiastic in this one, ever. What would you do in this situation? Like, if you're in a position which is definitely losing, how do you maintain composure? Because that's like actually a really important lesson at this point, I think, for a lot of people, me included, because I know I get tilted. How do you play a losing position?
So I literally go to myself, like, points matter. Like, so even if you're going to lose the game, points do matter, because people drop games, like, to other people in the group. So points can be, like, really clutch in terms of, like, your positioning in the group overall.
Mm-hmm.
And that can mean, like, a playoff spot. Say, like, okay, I'm losing this game, but, you know, there's a chance that another, like, good player is going to lose the game as well, just because of the group dynamic of the armies that are being played.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to try and get as many points as I can right now to try and make my score as good as possible. And that's how I stay positive when I'm losing a match. I'm like, I'm just playing for points. You know, I'll have a laugh and a joke about it with my opponent, because that puts me at ease, like, with a bit of anxiety as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, yeah, I've lost this, you know, but I'm just going to play for points and I'm just going to see what I can do, you know. And that's how I sort of, like, maintain, like, a positive attitude like in a match. And even if I'm doing a practice game, I do exactly the same thing. I'm not like, oh, this is over, good game, well played, let's talk about it. I'm like, let's play this out. Because weirdly, like sometimes dice rolls go really messed up as well.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. Like your opponent can suddenly like make a big mistake, as you mentioned like last time playing chess. That happens a lot. Like the longer you play, someone is more likely to make a mistake. So that plays in, and then dice can sometimes just flump on a person as well completely, and they might go in for like this big play and it just doesn't work, and all of a sudden you're back in the game and you're like, oh, that's brilliant. It makes it more interesting for both you and your opponent at that point to actually play it out. Yeah, play for points. Like if you're losing like badly, just look for opportunities to score your secondaries, get some primary. Like I watched the game the other day where like there was a guy playing Chaos Knights, and he got like super tilted in the matchup against Dark Angels, but there was like 6 opportunities where like he could have scored like secondary or primary points.
Yeah.
That I was watching on Discord, and I was like, you're just too tilted to play the game right now. Like, and then he was getting really upset because he like scored like virtually nothing, and I'm like, but you had opportunities, but you missed them because you've actually just tilted yourself and got really salty over the game.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's really good advice. It is worth mentioning though, this is like one of the top pod of this group, if I remember correctly. Like this is where everybody is like bringing some extremely hardcore lists, and like Creeper isn't exactly to be pitied here. His list tabled a Dark Angels list. Like that thing can absolutely make you feel like it's got an amount of firepower in there that makes most people think of Tau before they became Tau as we know them today. Anyway, yeah, both Lynxes are dead. They are both toast. The last one was murdered in cold blood due to probably Entropy Cannons. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it matters. It's dead. That's the important bit. And, like the ideas here that we've been talking about for this turn have been going pretty much exactly as predicted. When you're in a winning position like this, it is hard to make blunders. And EDT like is obviously also a good player, so like he's been putting out his cultists, making sure that he's screening out, no deploy scramblers, and then on top of that, he's got this bloat drone that's charged into the Dire Avenger Exarch. You've got this guy, the Mortarion, that's charged into the Farseer, who is gonna die. You've got the Death Shroud Terminators that are charged into the Striking Scorpions. The Striking Scorpions are dead, and if the Death Shroud Terminators don't kill the Falcon, they'll get darn close. It's already at 3 wounds out of the 12 it had initially because Flamers exist. Yeah, Cardoff, it's a brutal game, and it's one of those times where it's like, okay, like, clutch moments happened. Mortarion lived turn 1, and turn 2. If Mortarion had been dead, turn 2, like, that might have made enough of a difference that one of the Lynxes would actually still be alive right now. Who knows? Did Chaos even lose a model? Chaos has lost a couple, like 1 or 2 models, I think.
Deathguard don't tend to lose models. Like, this happened in the first stream game against me and Curie, where he killed like 1 tank the entire game. Deathguard are like, they've actually done a really good job with the Codex.
Spawn died. That's true.
As resilient as they like should be.
Yeah, they're extremely resilient. They aren't perfect, and I think that honestly, if Mortarion had died turn 1, which I think was well within mathematics, if the odds on those invuln saves had been less.
I mean, I kind of agree, straight disagree with that. Like I said, I think it's like a 60% chance that Mortarion died, even with like Doom and Jinx, because neither of those spells affect a damage reduction 1 or a 5-up feel no pain.
Yeah. But the 5-up invuln save was past like 80% of the throws that were made, which meant that a lot of those 2 damage shots on the Lynx just didn't go through.
Even if you failed those, you still got like a 1 for a chance on the feel no pain.
Yeah, which is, man, Anyway, the fact that he didn't die means that, like, honestly, the Eldar, like, if the Eldar firepower had been allowed to go anywhere else in the list, there would be very little Deathguard army left, I think, already by the end of this following turn. But the fact that everything had to go into Morty, and it took 2 full turns to bring Morty down to 2 wounds, and that included a charge out of the Warlocks and everything, hurts, I think, quite a lot. On top of that, the Deathguard firepower from these Playburst Crawlers has been dramatic. The Entropy Cannons do so much damage.
They just don't get touched all game because your opponent can't afford to touch them either.
Literally flinging them off the table. Yeah, you can definitely see that Creeper's mad. And, like, I can't blame him. At this point, it's like, what is there to do? He's been tabled. The only thing that's left on the table right now for him are 5 Dark Angel, like 5 Rangers, which he could just opt to not put on the table and have them die on his own accord. At least at that point, it's an honorable way to go. But Creeper literally has no models left. They're literally all gone. Like, at this point, the only thing he can do is shoot Morty, get 3 points, and then immediately die after that. And I'm not even sure if he's going for that. Like, when you're playing a game like this, it is extremely easy to get salted. But I think that kind of brings up one other important thing I'd like to mention. Arrover, when this happens, it's easy to get mad, right? Like, right. So, oh, I lied. Sorry, there are 2 Dark Reapers still left alive. I lied.
Yep.
It's easy to get tilted really, really hard, but you do also have to remember it is just a game. Yeah, like, as rough as it can be to say that, there are times where you just have to remember it's a game. It happens.
Right, so, like, that's the difference between...
And Mortarion did die. The Dark Reapers did do the trick, so that's 3 points for assassinate.
Or raise your glasses high for killing Mortarion.
You know what? Creeper wins on moral grounds, as far as I'm concerned.
But,
to heck with this DG list.
So, Sean Aiden made, like, a really good point in a Long War podcast a while back in 8th edition, and he said the difference between a good player and a great player is a great player learns from their mistakes. So, getting mad and frustrated, there's no point. Whereas if you go to your opponent afterwards, I've never played this army before, what did I do wrong? And that way you learn and you bring that into the matchup again, rather than getting, like, irritated by it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would agree with you there. And like any game like this where you lose, even if it's against a list that managed to beat you really badly, it is worth remembering that the games that you lose have a lot more to teach you than the games that you win. And little things like how to best make sure that you're avoiding line of sight with your lynxes, staying outside of the same corners, or like Erever said, maybe the tactical decision was to go deep on the opponent's objectives and maybe like tag a Plague Burst Crawler or 2 or something like that, and like try to remove OBSEC and just ignore Mortarion entirely. That's an option. In a list against this one, where, you just have to kill Morty or else you lose, yeah, there's things you can do. Oh, the Rangers are charging into the Shroud champions. The Reapers have died in Overwatch.
Oh, really?
And the Rangers will die honorably on their own terms, it seems. Because if the Shroud champions somehow don't kill the Reapers and table them, then yeah. Okay, cool. I would have charged the Poxwalkers, personally. Because you might have been able to rip down a banner at least. Oh, no. The good news is that at least the while we stand, we fight for EDT here is only going to go for 10 points instead of 15.
That's true.
It's true.
And guys, don't get me wrong. I think this was a rough matchup for Eldar. Like, I didn't want to say that too much in the start, just because I know how EDT stroke Etomchin's list functions completely, because I've played it like pretty much the same thing but with Thousand Suns instead of Wordbearers myself. And there was a bit of counterplay, as I mentioned, but you might not have spotted that or known, which is fair enough and a learning experience. So take that. I hope he takes that one away, and we'll go through like post game as usual in regards to that.
Yeah.
But it is a rough matchup at the end of the day. Don't get me wrong. You have one of the oldest codexes in 8th edition plus a PA book going up against a new codex, which is like amazing. A
new codex with excellent soup options, because that's the one thing that Chaos had going for them throughout the entirety of 2 editions.
Even Pure Deathguard is great. Like,
yeah, but like Pure Deathguard would not have been able to throw Morty up that far in one turn.
Yeah. Like
the reason why this list was as brutal as it was because that one dude, this tiny little Chaos man right here, this sorcerer with warp time that cannot be denied, is really good when you can put that on a 490 point unit that runs around and cannot die, because removing rerolls is ridiculous. And like, I can have a solo cast where I just complain, but the important thing to keep in mind here is that this is something that is going to happen with armies. Eventually we'll get power, like new armies can deal with Mortarion better than the older codices can. there is something to be said for the amount of mortal wounds that Admech can pump out and Sisters can pump out, which have access to extremely good psychic awakenings / just a really good codex.
If you're going to the mirror against Mori, don't forget you've got a Balor's Putrefier who's all of a sudden your Death Shroud hitting Mori. Granted, he turns off rerolls, but you still get mortal wounds on 6s, and that can spike like into like 10 more for their attack.
Yeah, 100%. And like that number of mortal wounds is hard to remove. It also bypasses 2/3 of his defenses. Yeah, older codices currently are getting updated, Face Wrecked. And like, if you're playing an old codex, best of luck. I'm with you there. I play Tau. So like, I hear you. I would look at EDT's list and just kind of shrug and go, well, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do against this, but okay.
Every counterplay you can do with Mortarion, which we didn't really see with the Eldar because Eldar don't do that great, is you can just literally drown him in bodies as well.
Yeah.
So if you have like 100 guardsmen, and like you literally just have like 10 guardsmen like go into him, and like one guy lives, and then you just like do like consolidate squads for another unit, and just keep him locked down with like guardsman bodies that he's never like really going to get through like the entire game. That can be a great plan as well. Like Tyranids can do it really well with Hormigants and Termagants and that sort of thing. As well, I've seen people play around Mortarion like that. There is counterplay to Mortarion. You just have to think outside the box, like a little bit, in how you're gonna sort of deal with a Primarch.
Is engagement on fronts for 15 possible if you scored 2 on the first turn? I don't think it is it? No, it's not.
It'd be 14. It'd be 14.
Yeah, just making sure. While we stand for 10, raise the banners will go for the full 15. But that there's no question. Yeah, they've talked through their game. It should be a 94-point victory then. Look, I'm just gonna go ahead and toss this over to the really cool victory screen that has all the cool plasma effects and stuff that we've been working on. Yeah, so chat does point out there are definitely some errors that could have happened. And there's definitely some things that could have been done. Deploying further back for Creeper here would have potentially been a strong option, because that 6-inch charge on the Shadow Specters could have been avoided almost entirely. And on like, you know, some things could have been deployed on the board to be able to like slow down the amount of deploys and stuff like that. But more importantly, like, yeah, just deploying super far back. You don't need your primary until the start of turn 2, so you don't need to deploy on the objectives. The only shooting that's in the list really is the 2 mortars, and then there's the 2 entropy cannons, but like you can hide from those relatively well depending on which corner you decide to deploy in. Yeah, I do think that this was definitely there are definitely some things that Creeper could have done in deployment to change things around. I think that there are some things that you could have done during the turn 1 movement that could have been big. Yeah, it's there's a lot of stuff going on there. Let's go ahead and talk to everybody. So, hey everyone. That was a game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and start off with EDT. So first off, congratulations on your win. You made me barf a little bit. I hated everything that your list did, and it was marvelous to watch, but at the same time horrifying. First off, I'd like to just ask, where did you get the idea for the list?
I've been playing this list in local RTTs the last month or so, and I've had a lot of success with it. So I've been tweaking it more. Unfortunately, it's like my list was locked in for alpha, and I've been tweaking some of the stuff more. So there's a few changes that I think makes the list even better that I didn't get to run today.
We had a few discussions about Thousand Suns, right? Like,
yeah, Thousand Suns is where, because the Word Bearers was the hotness, because you have this I always pass spells stratagem, which is great. But it turns out that game 1, when this is the word of the list, which is when you're yeeting Mortarion just up the board, like the best way to do it is to just be out of deny range instead of being like I auto pass. And so like you might have seen turn 1 when I measured from where his casters were. So I saw like exactly where 24 inches away from the nearest deny was, and then my goal is to push my caster as far as possible so that Morty can go as far as possible. And moral of the story is when you have an extra 6 inches on warp time from the Thousand Suns detachment, you can, instead of Morty's turn 1 charge being like a 6-inch, it goes to a unfailable if they're on the line, basically.
Yeah. And with the Thousand Suns detachment, you can also make it so that we got like a +3 to cast on Hourmen and some other stuff going on. So Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
It's reliable. In terms of like list structure, the list is like very specifically designed every other part of it, which is like I'm built for while we stand we fight. So I'm only taking Death Shroud because I don't want anything other than the Plagueburst crawlers to be the while we stand we fight. And I basically take it as a scramblers. So like I'm gonna get 10 every game because you're gonna be so caught up shooting Mortarion that you don't have firepower to kill them. And if you do have both firepower, then I just am willing to use their mortars and never pop the Entropy Cannons out and just sit on my 10 points. So everything else in the list is pretty much designed to be throwaway. So I can just throw like the drones at you, the Death Shroud at you, the Demon Prince. Yeah, it's a little bit iffy when someone takes Assassinate because then all of a sudden I have to play a little bit more cagey. But the Death Shroud Bodyguard rule is like means that I can kind of keep most of my characters safe nonetheless.
Yeah, so that's the list idea. And walking into this game, you know, you're going up against Craftworld Eldar, but you also know for a fact that Creeper's list does wonders. It absolutely wiped, a Dark Angels list earlier on, and like that's got to say something about it. What were you thinking going into this game?
Totally. There was so I like did the math, and if he goes first and has Jinx and Doom off on Morty, then he absolutely can pick him up turn 1. So I basically decided there were like 4 things that were like coin flips that determined whether or not I was going to win this game. And to be fair, I think it was a bit stacked in my favor, so that like all 4 of these things had to go bad in order for me to lose. Which was the first one was roll up a mission where I can't hide Morty turn 1. So we flipped that coin and I lost that one. So right off the bat, I'm like, great, Morty's in the open. Yep. The next coin flip was who's going first. And if I can go 24 inches before he gets the shooting phase, like I'm in a good spot. If he gets to shoot me and I'm still sitting in my deployment zone, not in a good spot. So I won the roll off to go first, and immediately I'm like, okay, I passed that coin flip, like I'm sitting okay. The next coin flip is can I deny Jinx and Doom? Because in order to be within 24 to get the spells off onto Morty, they're in range of Morty, and Morty has 3 denies himself. So like I'm gonna CP those, whichever one he rolls low on. Like he rolled a 7 on his Jinx, and I rolled a 7 to deny, and then re-rolled it into a 7. So like I was gonna do everything I could to deny those. So unfortunately that coin flip didn't go for me. But then the last coin flip was can I roll like average on saves for Morty? And
you rolled like above average.
I rolled slightly above average for sure. So like
slightly?
Another.
I think you failed 2 1 saves that entire shooting phase. I think the Lynxes did maximum 6 damage.
He got me down to 9 wounds in the first 2 shooting phase. To be fair, I can wait to go into like kind of some critiques because like having played the list a lot, I know how to play against it too. A few things, like obviously I'm sure he realizes like he could have screened the Specters better turn 1 because I just murdered them and then tagged the home objective.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk with Creeper about some of the lessons that we can learn from this because
Erever
and I both noticed some things, and Erever was like, "Hey, there are actually a couple ways to counterplay this." Now that I think about it, and it's like, "Oh, okay." So we'll talk about that with Creeper in the meantime. But yeah, most of those coin flips went your way though with Morty, and then at that point, it's like, okay, Morty's around.
Yeah, I really just needed to go first or have any of the other coin flips go my way, and as long as 1 out of 4 coin flips went my way, I was chilling, and like 2 out of 4 went my way, so I was like pretty confident.
Yeah.
The only thing that I also saw, like Creeper, once he redeployed his stuff in the beginning, if he had redeployed a caster to be closer, it would have pushed Morty's warp time back a bit further. But I was able to go like a full 12 with my caster and then still warp time, which is why I managed to only have a 6-inch charge into his like deployment zone.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, and honestly, as much as it pains me to say this, EDT, your game does not leave a whole lot up for discussion. And after that first turn and then the second turn as well, like your game kind of played itself, I think. Would you say that that's a wrong thing to say, or?
I like the list because it has a lot of legs. Like the tech pieces in it do come out later in the game. So like, yeah, you warp time Morty turn 1, and that's some of it. But then like, every other turn I can warp time a drone, I can warp time Death Shroud, and so like, even like if you kill Morty turn 1, you have a chance. If you kill Morty turn 2, you're getting overwhelmed by like multiple drones, the Demon Prince, the Death Shroud unchargeable blob with the Foul Blight spawn. But yeah, I think like I also like kind of have this list on autopilot at this point. I like won 3 RTTs with it recently, so I'm like kind of just push Morty and kind of do the cast.
Practice helps. It turns out as well.
1,000%. Practice makes perfect for sure.
Do you think that a new player picking up this list, if they're like, oh boy, I want to go ahead and pick up the net list of the Sentry, do you think that a new player could walk into an RTT and win with this easily, or do you think that this requires a little bit more finesse than that allows?
I think it definitely requires more finesse than it might look like on paper. And of course, like, why would I like? I'm not gonna disparage myself and say, yeah, you can just pick this up and like win with it. I mean, sure, like warp timing Morty into someone is not like the most big brain play of all time. But like, there's a lot of more finesse to it with regards to like the threat saturation.
Yeah.
Like turn one, you just want to be pushing everything because like there's no like using obscuring and slowing down your forward push doesn't help you because there's not a single shot going into any other unit in your army turn one. So like there's various nuances to that. Like knowing that you have a lot of drone plays, like the heroic intervention strat on the drone is huge. Warp timing drones like gets me a lot of value. You take engage and Deathguard are so slow. Like I think when Erebor played, he took engage, and it was really hard for him to score that because he's just like he's mono Deathguard. But I've got like these drones, and I got a chaos spawn.
Well, that's a good
like,
point. Sorry to interrupt, but you were
go for
it. This is just coming from Joe's point. You didn't score max on engage, by the way. We were actually down 1 point on that.
Oh yeah, I am down 1 on engage because turn one I got only 2 points.
Yeah, which makes it impossible to score the max. But yeah. Anywho.
Yeah, in my RTT games, like I didn't get any hundreds, but like the highest score I ever got was like 98, which is like when Morty lived. But the rest of the time it's like 92s, 94s because like I'm dropping a couple points on engage, and then I'm also going into it expecting to drop 5 on while we stand.
Yeah, which honestly is like still the reason why people pick up deploy scramblers a good chunk of the time is because if the game goes even like remotely okay with most lists, you can score the 10. But this is an interesting map for it, and honestly, I can't wait to start talking to Creeper about some of those choices and stuff like that. And Creeper, I in advance, I hope that we don't sound harsh. But yeah, like the reason why you go for deploy scramblers is because usually it's a pretty solid 10 points, and that's great for a secondary. That's above average. If you're getting a 10, the average for a secondary that you're looking for on average is like 8, 9, maybe 10, and then that's when you know it's like, okay, that's a good second or third pick secondary. The fact that deploy scramblers is on the high end of that average is like fantastic, and that you're planning for while we stand we fight to just be that guaranteed 10 pretty much seems like a solid strategy to me.
Yeah, I think you always bake your secondaries into your list, like the way that deploy scramblers is baked in. Well, absolutely baked for this list, and then even engage because I'm warp timing a drone or warp timing Morty. I'm gonna score a 10 on engage as well.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so Creeper, the time has come. Let's go ahead and talk about this game for a minute, which I know is not going to make anybody happy. If I was being interviewed right now, I'd be like, but you're a better man than I am. So, walking into this match must have had an interesting effect. How are you feeling when you were going into this match, Creeper?
To be honest, it was a coin flip. As soon as I saw that I lost turn 1, that I lost the ability to go first, I was like, oh, I guess I like lose most likely.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, all right. So I'm gonna disagree with that personally for a moment, if that's right. Right. So one of the biggest fair. He's got warp time, which gives him like that zone, like turn 1 engagement that's going to happen because you can't stop that as your army. I completely agree. Yep, that's a bummer. But if you'd have had like both units of Shadow Specters like in reserve, then you don't have to worry about losing those alpha units turn 1. So that doesn't matter if he gets turn 1 because they're still there to come down and do their thing. The other thing we were sort of thinking you might do during deployment is actually use your Dire Avengers to just sort of like screen out Mortarion as much as you can. Sure, he touches Dire Avengers and kills them. That's fine. You know, you've got the speed at that point to literally go, okay, you've warp time Mortarion. He's in my deployment zone. Cool. I'm going to start playing the game in your deployment zone straight mid-board with my force at that point. And move everything up to like mid-board, stroke his deployment zone, and just start playing the game around there. Because you've got to bear in mind, he has 2 weak OBSEC units. And there was a chance to take out the Sorcerer, turn 1, which would have like given you like 3 points on Assassinate because he was left out in the open by himself. So you could have just put shots in there, taken those 3 points, and then started playing the game like turn 2, stroke 3, around his back objectives, and not had to really worry about Mortarion too much, right?
That was a whole lot of information. I guess what Erev is trying to say is there is a strategy where you could have avoided Mortarion. Was that an idea you were willing to entertain, or was that something that was like, no, I need to kill Mortarion to make sure I can do this?
I mean, the reason why I didn't go for the Sorcerer was it's either I give up the Viper to hold the objective, or I give up the Dire Avengers at that point. And for some reason, I thought Dire Avengers were more important. I don't know why. Most likely because the idea was, if I manage to kill Morty, I can run out with the Dire Avengers into the what are they called? Into the Demon Prince and the drone, and attempt to live with OPSEC. While if I did not have anything on that point, or if I had the Dire Avengers, they would have died instantly, and I believe it would have been the worst play overall.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can hop in a bit because like you guys are offering critiques of kind of how to deal with Morty, and like obviously I've been on both sides to some extent.
Yeah. We talked about it during the stream a bit.
I think like Erev is on something for sure. To start with, like there's some parts of your Erev things that's right, and some parts that are really wrong. So like playing around Morty like is kind of a myth. Like people are always like, oh, you just have to play around Morty. Like you can't really you need to be putting firepower into Morty because Morty is just going to be picking up a unit of yours a turn, and that's just not a sustainable way to play a game. Like, so the other thing that I would disagree with is that he can't just really push midboard because the rest of my army is midboard. Like if he just pushed onto the middle objective,
right? So
he's gonna get punched by 2 Death Shroud squads on one side and 2 drones and a Demon Prince on the other side.
Yeah,
but they're easy to kill in Mortarion.
Not quite. Lower
well,
toughness, but they have these.
Yeah, but they don't have 18 wounds for a start.
They're all T7 -1 damage. Like,
yeah, but not 18 wounds. Is my point.
Well, hold on. Let's listen to Creeper. Creeper, what you were about to say something? Sorry.
Okay, first off, Death Shrouds have actually better defensive stats than Morty because they have a 2+ armor and 4 Invuln. Invuln is the same as Morty, armor is better than Morty. The only difference is in their toughness characteristic. So it is a 16% increase of me wounding them, but they will save the same amount of firepower Morty saves. And I cannot kill them in a single shot with anything in my army.
Because it's damage 3.
Therefore, shooting Morty is much easier than shooting into like either Blightlord Terminators, Death Shroud Terminators. So pushing up midfield is not an option.
Okay, that makes sense.
That said, though, there is some play that Erev was pointing out, which I think the thing he said that has the most credibility is like there's a screen turn 1, right, where like the deployments had those 3 runes, and there's just like that empty like kind of no man's land that I had to like fit Morty through because he couldn't fly over the rune in the charge phase. And so like that's where, you know, if you line up 2 squads of Dire Avengers and a Shining Spear squad and they all move block Morty's charge, then you have some play there. That said, I'm going to recognize that and I'm going to put all my mortars and line of sight shooting into that. And then it's a matter of, can I clear like 13-ish bodies, which sometimes I can and sometimes I can't. So you definitely want to do that to offer yourself that option, but it also like easier said than done for sure.
So in my eye, I would agree with Creeper in that trying to kill Morty, especially with access to Doom and Guide, where like those things can only go onto 1 or 2 units. Like it's easier to focus down a single target than it is to focus down a lot of other smaller targets. In my opinion. That said, I think there were 2 big mistakes that I think happened, but Creeper, you can correct me because you're obviously a better player than I am. The first one was where you deployed. When you deploy the Shadow Specters out front like that, you knew that Morty is capable of doing that doing that warp time and moving and charging and all that stuff. The Shadow Specters are very quick; they can reposition. Why weren't they put further back?
Because I brain farted.
Fair enough. Okay, moving on to the second one then. So the second one was, okay, your movement phase. After Morty got off the charge and everything crammed into the one corner rather than splitting up. Since Doom in particular and Guide are not dependent on your guys being together, they are dependent on shooting the same thing. Why did everybody go into the same corner instead of trying to split up and make it difficult for any one thing to be focus fired?
Well, first thing is, it will have the same effect no matter what. One thing will die, because Morty will charge that thing.
Yes.
Second, I am always shooting my Shadow Specters on the D6 profile against Morty, because it's it's the optimal profile for them.
Okay.
So they need the autarch reroll. He had miasma on him, which means I miss half of my shots with everything. So autarch has to go in to support. So I need that reroll once to have a chance of killing him, because I reroll once with the autarch, and then if I get a 2 or a 3, it goes with crafters.
Yeah.
And that's why everything had to go into the same corner. And if I managed to fail Doom, I would have popped Runes of Witnessing on my Farseer to reroll once to wound. That's why I had to have everything in one corner.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. Okay. So the one corner thing makes perfect sense. No problem there. And we can agree on the deployment thing. That's good to know. I feel like I'm learning a lot here. So thank you, Creeper. Yeah, really, past that, Morty got off his charge turn 2. He was still alive with 4 wounds. Your Warlock was a hero. Your Autarch was legendary. We will be singing songs about that charge and, all that stuff for some time. Bravest models I've ever seen.
Compared to the car that we saw on Thursday. Yeah. Our bravest model award this season.
I don't know. Charging Morty is pretty brave. Facing down facing down one Chronomancer.
Judicar facing 1,800 points in Necrons is pretty brave as well.
Yeah, he died to a Chronomancer just blasted him, which is pretty funny. But I digress. So yeah, no, the game was after that turn. Yeah, there's again, like I mentioned to EDT, there wasn't much else to talk about at that point because you've made your choices and you kind of committed to them, and your choices make sense now, Creeper, and that's fine. If you were to play this game again, 2 questions. 1, what would you change about the way that you played, if anything? And 2, do you think that your lists and that the list that you've built has a chance to beat EDT's list? And I think I know the answer for the second one, yeah.
As long as I get 10-1.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah. As long as you get turn 1, yeah, that makes a huge difference. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Sorry to interrupt, Stove, but
please.
One thing I commented on before in the last game we saw you on, I think you're really missing that Quicken, and I'm still going to harp on about that because having your Shining Spears, being able to get into the backlines and remove one of these little OBSEC units that he has, either forces his play down 2 roads. He either leaves one asset such as the Death Shrouds back for the threat of that, which means that you're only dealing with 1 unit of Death Shrouds, or he's leaving a drone back to have to deal with that, which means that there's less things being thrown up in your face, which I think is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it's a shame we can't change lists or anything in between games. I mean, it's also good that it speeds things up considerably. But yeah, do you think that that's something that you might consider for next season if you decide to continue to play Eldari?
No.
Why?
No. I am sticking to double Jinx because if I had gone first, I have to suicide one of the Warlocks to get Jinx off.
Yeah. Okay.
So one of the Warlocks is a suicide Warlock. He will go in, he will Jinx, and he will die. That's why I have double Jinx.
Sure, but you're looking at Warp Charge 7 power that he can deny at that point, and you're getting no pluses to cast it, right?
Warp Charge 7 is a coin flip that I am willing to take to win.
I hear you there. Yeah, whenever you're playing anything that's from behind and playing old codices, we're playing from behind automatically. In a good chunk of scenarios, you have to play for those high variance plays, so that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
If only Jinx had a 24-inch range like everything else in the game has.
If only. If only. Second off, Why I don't think the Shining Spears into Poxwalkers would work. One side is covered by a double Plague Drone, so either those or the Demon Prince will deal with the Shining Spears pretty effectively, because they don't have an invuln in melee, and are only toughness 4.
Yep.
Second off, I have Shuriken Cannons. Shuriken Catapults. That doesn't deal much. Hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s against Poxwalkers.
Feels
No,
bad.
you got Lancers, and you got melee. And I'm sorry, forgive me. That my counterpoint to that was I was like on about running like a unit of 5 Shining
A
Spears.
unit of 5, okay. At that point, then maybe.
Got you. Yeah.
Right.
Maybe. But once again, that's a different approach to
Different
to playing
archetypes.
Eldar.
Sure, for sure. Yeah.
And at that point, you have to reconsider basically everything. Do I run double links? Do I go down to single links and bring more transports like a Wave Serpent? And lean more into Dark Reapers, for example?
Wave Serpent's too
And then-
expensive right now. Unfortunately, I feel you. Like, it's too expensive for what it does. I feel you.
I mean, but if you bring a Serpent, you can bring more Reapers in a single blob, and at that point you can play your Guide Seer, because you can guide either the Reapers or the Shining Spears blob, because that does improve their effectiveness by a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Second off, if you do commit to that play, you are discarding the Autarch, because he is at that point redundant, since your only shooting has Guide on it. So, you could run double Farseer, because one can be your Guide Fortune, other is the Doomseer with Doom Executioner and Smite, and the Fortune guy has Focus Will because best power in our supplement. Focus Will, it's a surprisingly strong power.
Yeah, it turns
Yeah,
out that
great.
getting +1 to all the rest of your cast is nice.
Also, what else? Yeah, with only 3 spears, they don't deal enough. They don't have enough of a punch to make a dent in.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
boss.
exactly. And sorry. I think I like comment on that. Like, you explained it really well. The fact that you want to use these guys to like move block like between like a couple of runs, and I think that's great. You know, the MSU unit can certainly do that. But then when you come across a list like this, where you got like 4 units with fly, and they can just kind of like ignore that completely, is a bit of a problem, right?
It is. But then again, if I had first turn, then maybe it
Got
could
you,
have been different.
Yeah, exactly.
We are
Yeah.
At every question you can put at, like, you can give me goes around to if I had first turn.
I like it. I need a first turn. I need that coin flip. Speaking of coin flips though, and like rolls in general, EDT, your saves on Mortarion turn 1 were a bit out this world. Let's be honest here.
I don't even know. Like, it didn't really matter. Like, to be fair, like I was saying earlier on the coin flip thing. Like, there were 4 coin flips. There was like, what does the deployment zones look like? Is there somewhere to hide? That went in Creeper's favor. Then it was who's going first, and I obviously got that roll off, and that was huge.
Oh, I see.
Then,
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And then there was another coin flip, which was can I deny his spells because he's going to be in deny range, and I had multiple opportunities to deny. They weren't cast on that high values, and I didn't get to deny them. So like then that went in his favor. And then the last one was can I roll average saves with Morty? For sure, I rolled a bit above average. I think like we looked at the scoreboard after though, like there was no world in which even if Morty died, like if Morty dies turn 1 maybe, but he probably would have had a few wounds left even if I failed a few more saves. Once we then he's gonna wreck again on turn 2. There's no Overwatch because of his Warlord trait. And then what happens is if you look at the score, I'm gonna get that 13 on engage, right? I'm gonna get the 10 on while we stand. And then banners, he's not gonna come and touch my banners. And so that's like, a solid 40 on secondaries, and I'm holding my 3 the entire game and then occasionally taking him off his 2. So it's gonna be at least a max primary game too. So then on the countering that is he needs to get Assassinate, he needs to deploy Scramblers, and he needs to engage. He's dropped engage turn 1. He's going to get 10 on Scramblers in a good world, although my entire army is sitting in my deployment zone. And he needs to Assassinate. And he's only... Sorry, what were you saying?
Sorry, carry on. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's all good. And he Assassinate, he's going to get Morty. I'm going to throw away a Demon Prince. and then he's not going to get to the last 2 characters at least, so that's a max on the 9, right? And so it's like, even if Morty dies turn 1, if Morty dies turn 1, there's a chance. If Morty dies turn 2, like, it's just, he's on the back foot the whole game, and that's what Morty does. Like, I've thrown away Morty and lost Morty turn 1 and still scored 90-point games, because what happens is you spend an entire turn of your army boxed into your deployment zone trying to kill him. Even if you succeed, like, even you saw his movement turn 1 put him into the corner, and for sure they're fast, but like, he's been so boxed in that I'm sitting on primary, I'm sitting on the mid board, and everything else in my army is super durable too. It's that same profile of T5 to T7, super good armor or invulns and -1 damage.
Yeah, nearly impossible to wound on 2s and just...
Yeah, it becomes a scoreboard thing. Like, you just look at scoreboards and you go, what is the path to victory? Well, I've already out-engaged him because I've put him on the back foot turn 1. Assassinate is hard to compete with my banners, which I'm going to get 15 on. And then he's deploying scramblers, matches my while we fights. And so it's like, there's really no room to kind of swing it back at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was something we touched on, was like the actual like template of the Plagueis Crawler, plus the like Obsite boys of like the Poxwalkers and the Cultists is just amazing on this map for screening out deploy scramblers. So like, because like the Plagueis Crawler can literally hit anything on the map and just sit there at the back and do this 9-inch bubble of annoyance, and then you've got these 2 10-man units that can do exactly the same thing. So it's going to be really rough to get like a deployment into the backfield.
Right,
that,
and they're sitting
they
there.
don't have to move like all game, right? They can just literally sit
exactly.
there. Yeah.
And the 10-mans are going to string out because they're not really suffering any penalties for stringing out. So like, I played against this RTT last weekend. I played against the Sisters with Seraphim, Death Cult Assassins, all sorts of small units trying to deep strike in my deployment zone. He took Linebreaker also. He got a 0 on Linebreaker and 0 on deploy scramblers. Next game I played against Nids. Nids are like infamously good at deploying scramblers. You got the double moves, you got all sorts of ways, and then you have a Lictor, which is like a 30 or 40 millimeter base, right? Super easy to fit in a deployment zone. Yeah. Again, got 0s on scramblers. Like, my army is comfortable sitting in its deployment zone for the 30 models of Poxwalkers Cultists and 2 Plague Bursts. That's an entire deployment zone. And then the midboard is not really a comfortable place to be either, because there's unchargeable Terminator brick, and then there's these drones flying around that are nasty. Drones are nasty.
Yeah. Which is why I'm painting them up right now. They're, yep.
Like, can we talk about...
Yeah.
I got Prescience. Like, I have Prescience on them. I can hit their 12 attacks. I can go to hitting on 2s. I can put Diabolic Strength on them, so they're Strength 9 at 15 attacks hitting on 2s.
That hits the unit or a model?
It's a drone, so it's... I can.
Oh, right, never mind. Sorry. I got confused. Yep.
Yeah, so they're hitting on 2s, like they're hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s, rerolling 1s for Plague Weapon. They can heroic onto an objective up to 6 inches. Like, they're beasts. I almost want one. I want a third one more than I want Demon Prince. Demon Prince is the infamous, like, dingo head who does nothing the whole game. But
well, interesting enough, you can convert a drone into a Demon Prince if you're good at kit bashing and stuff.
Demon Prince just like, he just looks scary. He just like stares menacingly, and then occasionally he'll throw a Plague Skull, but I usually forget to. Like, I did this game also.
Well, the thing is, if you had thrown the Plague Skull, it would have cost you movement, so it's almost a good thing you didn't do it. Like...
No, it doesn't even cost you movement.
No. What I meant is, like, if you had thrown it against the Viper, then the Viper would have died, which would have given you less charge and pile and consolidate movement. It was actually better to not throw the skull in that situation.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay. The one question I wanted to ask is, now from both of you, when it comes to secondary choices like deploy scramblers and stuff like that, there are certain armies that do it really well, as we mentioned. But there are also certain deployments where it's easier or harder to do it. And from my experience, this hammer and anvil type deployment, long board, like, short board edge deployment like this, is actually exceptionally difficult, because although the deployment zones themselves are very deep, they're very thin too, and as a result, proper screening is actually really easy to accomplish. Do you think that changes, like, do you think that your deployment really changes that secondary that much? Because I know deploy scramblers is like really popular. Are there times where you wouldn't pick it based on deployment like this, or would you pick it pretty much regardless, no matter what? Is it more, does it warrant thinking more about it as a flex option than it does as baking it into your list sometimes?
To be honest, it depends on the faction, because some factions have to lean pretty heavily in such a low commitment, high reward, like secondaries.
Yeah.
For example, Eldar, you kind of have to do this, because you don't have like tough enough units, to do while we stand.
Mm-hmm.
You are fast, so you do your engage, of course. You cannot do, for example, domination on 5 objective missions,
Yep.
because once again, you die.
Yep.
And those are the things that just don't change. For example, I am most forced to go into engage because I am Eldar, I'm fast, and I die after scoring it. I have to do scramblers because it's the only one I can reliably get, and going for kill something, either kill something or outlive.
Yep.
I've got to say though, being an Eldar player myself, sometimes I think engage is like an obvious choice, but I also think it can be a bit of a trap when like you've got these super strong melee units, and this is like not even I'm going to pretend that you didn't even run Mortarion, but when you've got like a Demon Prince, 2 units of Death Shroud, and 2 Blood Drones with Flesh Mowers, it's like, do I really want to run into these table quarters and give him 1 extra movement with the charge, and then my unit just dies on the next turn? And that's kind of how I feel with like engage sometimes in certain matchups. But that's just from like personal like play.
Yeah, and I think that kind of thinking will matter a bit too with the new Drukhari Codex and the fact that they have the same secondary that the Necrons do, where every table quarter you're not in gives them points. So we'll have to see whether how then it changes people's thoughts about engage and stuff like that. Really, what it comes down to is that the Eldar need a new book to really give them some more flex options for secondaries. Is that a fair thing to say out of you two Eldar players?
Well, it does depend, because what support are you getting for your units? That's the thing that matters more than secondaries, because even if you're stuck with like the core secondaries, as long as your units have the support to do them, you are fine.
Right.
But yeah, so for example, if your units get tougher, even if you don't get a good secondary, you can still go for while we stands or dominations, because at that point you can try to contest objectives.
So sorry, keep going.
So yeah, that's my reasoning.
You don't need broken secondaries. You just need a good codex.
Yeah. What I was saying is effectively quit your bitching because it's not changing anytime soon, and just learn to deal with it at the moment with what you've got. And if the codex changes the rules to be better, then great. That's excellent. But it's not the broken secondaries that are going to help.
Eldar do this great thing where we can suit with other Eldari. So you might see like Eldar coming out with like a little like Drukhari detachment of like, oh, I don't know, 2 Void Raven bombers for some more wound output.
Yeah.
And that sort of style may play into them. And obviously
they do lose power from pain though, which is unfortunate.
What a shame. I fly off the board turn 1 and I bomb you anyway.
Yeah, totally.
And that then does weirdly that does then unlock the Drukhari secondaries for you as well, which is kind of great.
Does it? Because Deathguard don't get them. If you
you. Oh, okay, maybe you're right. I've not looked into that too much.
I think the faction-specific secondaries are based off of whether or not you're playing an entirely that faction codex.
Okay, fair. All right.
The only difference there being the new Space Marine supplements get access to the supplement secondaries and the Space Marine Codex secondaries, which is just
anyway. I think it's great for like Eldar players in general, and I know we've got a few watching tonight. You've got access to this book. Kind of go, I can lose 2 CP and run a patrol of Drukhari and get some pretty sweet things, or just play Drukhari in general if you're like wanting to go down that road as well.
Yeah,
for sure. I'm also going to stand up for my good friend Engage on All Friends here, which like you gotta like Engage is. Let's not talk shit about Engage on all fronts. Like that is where it's one of the highest scoring secondaries in the game. Like
it's super good. It's
sure.
super good.
I just question it in some matchups is the thing.
I can see why it's super helpful though, and especially for Eldari, because it's one of the very few secondaries where you have complete and total control over it, and whether or not you score it. Your opponent can't stop you from getting engaged if you've got the right models in the right spot, and that's up to you entirely. Which means that that's a powerful secondary. End of story. Even deploy scramblers has less to do with your play because your opponent can control whether or not you score that based off of how well they screen. And how they prioritize killing things. Assassinate is also equally tough to score because you have to kill characters, which your opponent can just hide behind buildings. So yeah, there's nothing bad to say about Engage. And it's entirely not luck based. It is 100% skill based and army based and positioning based, and that's what makes it a really good secondary. It does mean that your army's spread thin, but that's something that you kind of have to sacrifice for the regularity. There has to be a downside to it, and that's it, really. Unless if there's any other questions, really, I think we've talked the death out of this game. Like, we've milked this thing for everything that a game like this is worth.
So, have any of the players got any like final comments on the matchup? Anything they would have done differently? I know Slow was going to go to his favorite question after this one, but I thought I'd just ask this first.
I'm not even sure if it's necessary, but yeah, let's go for it. Is there anything that you two would like to add? Let's start with EDT. Is there anything you'd like to comment on about this game in particular?
In terms of things that I would do differently, well, I've already been rewriting my list, so I'd like my sorcerer not to be who he is. I'd like him to be a new man. 1,000 Suns would be sweet, or Word Bearers with the jump pack. Those are the two new things I've been running, and they're both better. So
yeah, I'm thinking if you're thinking a new man, an Aura man sounds like a pretty good new man to add to that. But yeah, I hear you.
Over to Creeper.
Yeah, Creeper. Are there any comments you'd like to say about this game in general?
I think that I have said everything that I wanted to say. The game in general was pretty clear cut.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Yeah,
I'll just add that Creeper was a real sport about it. We both knew it was going to be pretty binary after the first turn or two. Like, even before the game, we knew it was going to be binary, and so like he still played it out knowing that it was not looking well. So props to him for being a gentleman with that.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. And in the post game, Creeper, like, I gotta say, I was asking questions. I was expecting to have, somebody who is a little bit like upset maybe or something like that. And no, I gotta say, Creeper, like, you gave out some really good answers. You gave out some important ones. I learned more from what you said, honestly. Sorry, EDT, than anything else in this game. Creeper's comments were super important to me, and I think that anybody who's still listening to this right now needs to go back and listen to that a second time, because there's a lot there that I think was important. Same thing goes for listening to EDT and about his list. So yeah, definitely re-listen this for some extra bonuses. Now,
yeah, and what I'd add there real quick is that like you learn much more when you lose than when you win, like 1,000%.
Agreed.
Totally.
Also, to say that I'm not upset, I'm very upset.
You definitely are not showing it like some people might, though.
Yeah. Mostly upset on my Shadow Specters for getting a low roll on their blast weapons. That was heartbreaking. Just
Well, you handled it really well. So, like, serious kudos. Like, you have my respect for sure. For that, because I know I can get really emotional about the game sometimes, and I need to like actually be like, I need to pause the game. I need to stand up and like breathe for 30 seconds. You handled yourself super well, Creeper. I've got to give you props for that. So at this point, I'm going to change up my last questions. Usually I ask about MVPs, but I think we know at least one of them. So I'm going to go ahead and try to gamble instead. Creeper, EDT, I want you both to think about your MVPs for this game. And then once you've done that, I'm going to go ahead and try to guess them. Let's go ahead and start off with EDT. EDT, I'm going to say that your MVP, hilariously, is actually your sorcerer. What would you think?
Yeah, he does his job. He's got his unfailable cast. He did take 2 mortal wounds to himself, so he was trying to give Creeper some assassinate points. But yeah, he can have it. Whatever. He actually got cut. He's not even the man. So let's be real. It's Morty. It's definitely not the Demon Prince. Not the Demon Prince who forgets to throw plague spells every game. Definitely not that guy. Anyone but him, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Okay. Creeper. As far as the moral victory goes, and the high ground, and probably the unit that scored the most points, I know the Farseer had Doom, so I would say the Farseer, but I'm going to also give the MVP award to your Dark Reapers. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the Dark Reapers. They ignored the -1 hit from Morty, so they were still hitting on good old 3s. They were wounding on 4s, and they wounded pretty consistently. And also did the most wounds to Morty, I think. I mean, from any single unit.
And then, keep going, sorry.
Also, the Autarch, because he does not rely upon anyone. He is his own man and he supports everyone.
And he'll charge who
See,
he wants.
I like to think that your Autarch is Aravor's apprentice who just runs a Primarch with his sword drawn. So that's the sort of thing Autarch Aravor would do.
Either that or Creeper's Autarch is like, Erevor's mentor. It could go either way, really.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I like that one. Yeah, that's great.
Okay, and then as far as units that need to go to the gym, EDT, I'm sorry, Mortarion really underperformed.
You guys don't understand. Like, so let me tell you, there's some subtle beauty to the list. Okay, it's not just it's not just that I go punching stuff with Morty and then I rest well assured. It's like, Morty, he just soaks all your shooting turn one, and then the subtle bloat drones, they sneak up in there. The Death Shroud are some quiet heroes. They don't brag. They just do their work in silence.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like, honestly, like, it's not like a list that just is brainless, and it does take some effort to learn how to play properly. And like, as far as like weak units go, yeah, I gotta agree with you. It honestly, the only unit that I kind of looked at and went, well, that didn't go nearly as well as I expected, and didn't seem really important, might have been your Demon Prince. I understand he's got the droning.
Nothing.
He did nothing though. Yeah. So I'd say he probably needs to hit the gym. And if anybody needs a buff, honestly, your Chaos Sorcerer, like you said, you could replace him with a better version of himself, but like that Sorcerer did his work, so no complaints. Creeper.
Agreed.
I'm gonna go ahead and let you determine which unit you think needs to hit the gym.
Hands down, the Specters.
Wait, I know
you're back in training right now.
I know I know you want the ones to go back to the gym, the ones that rolled poorly, but like the ones that got murdered turn one, they might want to rethink a couple things.
But they were trained to get murdered.
They were gonna roll they would have rolled 60 hits. They were just the ones. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Well, what can you do? It is what it is.
It is what it is.
All right, well, that's gonna be it from us here. Thank you, Creeper, and thank you, EDT, for your games. The pod of death continues. Creeper, good luck with the continuation of your games. It's worth remembering that you did table Dark Angels pretty much, so the Eldar are not out of it. And EDT, congratulations with your victory, and hopefully your games continue to go well.
Absolutely, and to mention, he did table not only Dark Angels but the winner of the last season of Alpha League. So,
and took a win off a very good Harlequins player as well.
Mm-hmm.
Also by tabling him.
Exactly. There we go.
This is the murder. Yeah, this is the murder pod with 2 season previous winners and a bunch of Craftworld.
So what we're saying is Eldar either table their opponent right now or lose, and they couldn't.
Exactly.
Yeah. There we go. Analysis done.
All right. Sorry, EDT, you're about to say something.
No, that's it. Sweet. Good
No,
talk.
I was about to say that's it. Sweet. So thanks again, you two. We'll talk to you. We'll talk to you later.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I'll just plug my competitive standard 40K YouTube channel. I run Bat Reps IRL since I fell in love playing Warhammer IRL.
You got a link I can put in the chat for that one?
Yep. It should be about 7 messages up in the chat if you're looking for it, Eric.
Yep. I just dropped one in the chat. We run competitive Bat Reps. We got the Morty list on the channel. We play in a lot of local events. If you're in New York, holler at us also.
Awesome.
That's all I got for you.
All right. In that case, then, so long, you two. Good luck with the rest of your games. And I'm going to go ahead and ask Erever to go ahead and give out any last little pieces of information we need. Erever.
Yeah, for sure, guys. First and foremost, as EDT Etomchin just mentioned, check out his stuff on YouTube. He has Alpha League players such as Nick Devotion, who lives locally to him, come down. They play great games. They're just getting started. I love the format. I love their setup and everything. So be sure to check them out on YouTube.
Thanks a lot,
link to their YouTube channel right there. I believe the Panthers is beating me to it. So there we go. Be sure to check them out. Other than that, if you're finding us for the first time, you're finding Alpha League, you're coming here randomly, this, that, and the other, and not gone through one of our links on the server, be sure to come onto our server to play some games of 40K. We have a community of over 40,000 people, all playing games, whether they be narrative-based, competitive-based, somewhere and elsewhere in between, I will drop a link for the server right into the chat right now for you all. And finally, I guess, and also you can speak to me on there as well if you want to, for whatever reason. Pop me a message. You know, my DMs are always open. You want to talk anything, it's fine. Getting set up, I can do like tutorial sort of like mentoring games to teach people how to play 40k and that sort of thing. Don't be shy. Message me. Not much going on still in lockdown here in the UK, so be sure to just chat to me. DM's always open. And finally, I guess we've got our YouTube where all of these games go up, and we have, if anyone still is sadistically into 8th edition as well, we've got a lot of VODs of 8th edition 40k up there as well. So I'll drop a link for that, and all the games, podcasts, everything else will go up onto there. So check out our YouTube as well. Other than that, guys, it's been great. I think, yeah.
What about the Patreon?
Sorry?
The Patreon!
Patreon, yes, Patreon. We have Patreon. We are sorting out, me and Malice are having discussions about sort of like perks for Patreons right now that we can give you. One thing we have in discussion, I can't say this officially because it's not set in stone, but we want to get like the like winner and second place of Alpha League into like our own like chat from all the previous seasons to give people like list advice and a bit of like coaching for competitive games. That might be something that we may still look at. The seeds have been sown for that one. There's a few people I need to get in touch. EDT is one of them, if he'd be up for that, by the way. Like,
Absolutely.
As he's here. So we're going to look into doing that kind of thing for you all, for Patreon supporters. We're also going to look at custom emojis. There's a lot of excitement to do for being an elite supporter on our server. If I can ever find the link for it, it's one of those links that I can never find.
Oh, you know what? Here, I'm gonna start looking it up. See if I can find it faster. Let's see. If I put this in. Put that in. Wow, would you look at that? I found it. Thank you, Google. Here you go. You can go ahead as far as there.
Don't say any words that I said in stone right. Any words that I said right now, do not take them in stone. These are ideas that we're kind of brainboxing together. Me and Malice, we're going to have another call about this in the week, but we do want there to be like perks for you supporting the server, because yeah. So we'll look at that in the next coming weeks too.
All right, and I think that's everything now. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in that case, then I'll go ahead and sign us off. Thank you, Ever, for making sure that we got every single one of those things out there. Socials, Discords, the YouTube, the Patreon. There's a whole lot going on. And now, from me, I'd like to go ahead and offer out a special thanks to our tournament organizer, Erever, because Erever is a boss. So, you know, thank you, Erever, for organizing this nonsense, incredible, huge thing. With 140 participants, trust me, it's not easy. I have a hard time organizing 10-man kill team tournaments back here in real life, back before all this went crazy. Anyway, so big thanks to Erever. I'd like to offer big thanks to Malice for getting the entire community together under one wing and just getting this Discord up and running in the first place and continuing to keep it going. Without Malice, obviously this wouldn't be a thing. I'd like to go ahead and thank our players today for hopping on and scheduling a time with us. EDT, Creeper, thank you very much for hopping and playing a game for the stream. It was super entertaining to watch, lots to learn. And at the very least, we got to see Morty really do what Morty does best. Be just a gigantic nuisance machine that kills things.
Not die turn one.
Just not die. I'd like to also offer a big special thanks to all of you viewers there today. Without you, there would be no stream. And without a stream, what am I doing here? I would literally not be here if there wasn't a stream. So thanks again for all of you for being here, for participating, for being a part of the community, and for joining if you haven't already. Speaking of which, if you haven't already, be sure to check out that Discord. There's lots of people on there that can help you to learn if you haven't learned how to play the game, or that can help you get it set up so that you can play over TTS with some friends and stuff while it is a dangerous time to be playing in person. Speaking of which, I'd like to personally offer a special thank you to all of you folks out there that work in jobs that are on the front lines, that work in health, that work in education, that work in security and safety, to make sure that all of us are still being as healthy and as safe as possible. So thank you to all of you for being on the front lines. Continue to
You're
stay
welcome.
healthy and alive, please.
We need more of those.
I'd like to go ahead and also offer a personal thank you to our artists, from the artists from whom I am using their music. First off, we got Argo Fox for our intro and outro music. All that hype stuff can be found over at Argo Fox on YouTube for your own videos, even if you wish. And we also used Death by Dice Volume 1 by Midwinter Minis over on YouTube. He has a Bandcamp page, which is where I got the music from. Be sure to check it out, bandcamp.com. Look up Death by Dice Volume 1. You'll be able to find the music that we were using in-game there and then. Big thanks to Games Workshop for producing the game in the first place. Big thanks to Tabletop Simulator for providing a place where we can play. And finally, you can go ahead and find me if you want to go ahead and talk to me personally over on my Twitter at SlowWolf. I also have my own YouTube channel and Twitch page, twitch.tv/SlowWolf, if you want to go ahead and see that. I tend to stream there. And yeah, that's that. Thanks for watching. We hope you folks enjoyed yourselves. If you did, be sure to let us know. Hit the follow button, send us some feedback, and hit the bell for notifications of when these streams go live. We'll be back again on Thursday with another game for you folks. No podcast this Sunday. See you Sunday. And also, yeah. So yeah, we'll see you guys next Thursday. That's it from us. And later.
Bye.
Right.